resolution to get them.
Yeah. Plus, you know what? It helps explain the whole process, how they do the bonds. Is exactly how they would have to do it in the South Shore.
That's right.
They would have to come here and argue the bond case in front of us.
That's good.
Which is good. That's what I'm saying the whole while. Okay, when you deal with bonds, they gotta come here. It's not the real development. That's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah,
And this is
I just assumed, that's, I'm glad you asked him.
it's the same process. It's the same process.
See, I didn't know, so I'm glad to know
It's
that.
nothing. That's why I started asking the questions. It's the same process, and that's what the rest of the.
Yeah, that's good that you asked it.
Then once the money goes there, then you go. On the days that the debt gathering has been taken.
How old are you saying 9:30?
I'm taking.
But you got some coffee.
Absolutely. Keep it moving. I don't plan to say a whole
I'm
bunch.
not talking about you.
I know. I know what we're talking about. I've already said mine.
I said my piece.
I'm tired.
You know, I've said my
Me and Bob and going at it all week. Me and this week. I don't think anybody else knows. What else is there left for me to say? I'm done. I mean, when it comes to this, you have your copy?
No, I don't.
You need a copy of this?
That was a good process.
Yeah, it was a great
Your question
process.
was raised.
Yeah. You have your copy, and then if you explain your part, explain what I'll say a word. You see, if you go first, and then I'll elaborate after you, and then we close. If I miss something or whatever, you can clarify it. I'm my piece. Good.
I think Oliver and I moved up.
That's why when you sent the email with the other stuff, I'm telling you, I did, but I'm okay. We can pay it out of $10.
We are so far over the cap.
Well, next 2 months will be,
Very true.
Yeah, hey, all these, you're just gonna talk about that, so, budget-wise, that's gonna be another time.
Yes, another. Yeah, it's not.
Just so they.
Yeah, I'll put that. And if you don't hear me put it in,
Okay.
so it's not
All right.
tonight.
It's all set up.
That's why I want them out of here.
Yeah.
Because they want to stay. That's cool.
Yeah, I get it. I just don't want their expectations to.
That's my point.
Yep.
Where did you get hot coffee?
It's some banger.
Is there?
Yeah, the glass pot is decaf, and the other one is.
About 7 o'clock the heat gets kicked
Okay.
off, or the air.
I'll
So
trust you.
By 10 o'clock it's about 80 in here. I love it.
Hasn't the county paid the visitors?
Yeah, we got the air running. We take our mom, my mother-in-law, to the hotel Saturday. So she's 87. And we walk in her room. They didn't have the air on, you know, at the hotel there. I'm like, God, it's hot. She goes, it is a little more. But it's on 80. You know, and it's not running. It's shut off and the room's 80. She goes, well, I'll turn it on. Put it on 79. Like, all right, I'm going to the bar. Where were you? St. Louis or whatever.
You got the St. Louis News.
St. Louis gives me put your name up there so everybody knows who you are. I don't want someone to confuse me with
They're going to come by and smash it.
It's not a big deal for
Yeah, it's
my
huge.
people that are coming to
I protest this. It's real easy here.
Actually, we don't want to be these guys.
Subscription is cold.
Well, there's actually the guy gave us two the station maker. Yeah. Is that what you're allowed to do? What is it? Every
It's same practice because if you're representing your employer or business,
He's doing it on behalf of his business.
he's not an individual. No, Sharon. She's what? She's not. She lives on Florida. She's accounting for it. Right, but her opinion and thoughts are.
Yeah.
So, this is an old one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let it dry out. All that will dry out. All electronics are dry out.
I don't think this is so sealed. The water gets in.
No, you can run them as the ports.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, right.
That's
We'll get in
there.
Anyway.
We buy foam.
That's right, right.
We buy
Perfect,
foam from
yeah.
the same company that's
This was a waste of time. I must have been another
You know what?
yeah, to try this on here. You have to confirm the handshake.
We don't know.
This is a one. You turn on
I'll try to get the same, but I haven't worked.
They'll kick your heat off at 7 or whatever.
I was going to Terry serious. I said, shoot, they need me to play second base. I told my wife to drive me to Chicago and help me. And I ain't taking you nowhere. I'm screaming at the TV, yelling.
I got tired. I said, forget it, guys. The series starts tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not a little bit.
It's Houston Astros and
Dodgers. Well, the Dodgers probably.
Yeah.
It'll be a good series. Good.
yeah.
I don't watch that. I don't watch that.
My
I don't watch
grandfather.
football till it gets into
He taught me to hate the Dodgers when I was a little kid. So.
I could just walk along, go the rest. I was up at 2 o'clock last night.
Yeah, you hate two teams, the Dodgers and the
Some of
Cardinals.
you,
If they're playing, you rule against them. That's what we've done in our family for years. The Dodgers and the Cardinals. Boy, nobody cares.
Said that
At least the Cardinals can be the Dodgers.
I tried to work one with some moons and starting some moons over here. I tell you. That picture was awesome though. Look at this.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
how about what's his name from Houston?
Verlander.
Oh.
Man. It's hard to sleep and still watch stuff. I'm still mad. Watching that TV. Just one thing. Then I realize I gotta go work or
Next up, we're just going to put C contract.
Good. I don't know what you're going to see. There's a lot of changes.
it should be the same as this week. It should be pretty well sick.
That's a county clerk, by the way.
Yeah.
Must have an Apple clock.
good now?
Getting close.
Cool? Yeah, that's it.
Good evening. The Monday, October 23rd, 2017 Common Council meeting is now in session. Our invocation is by Deborah Dwyer from the Benai Faith. Thank you for coming.
O my God, O my God, verily I invoke thee and supplicate before thy threshold, asking thee that all thy mercies may descend upon these souls. Specialize them for thy favor and thy truth. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. If you would, please turn your cell phones to silent. Ms. Fowler, roll call.
Councilmember Preston?
Here.
Councilmember Kelly?
Here.
Councilmember Broughton?
Here.
Councilmember Varner?
Present.
Vice President Davis?
Present.
Councilmember Vorty?
Present.
Councilmember Furlick?
Here.
Councilmember White?
Present.
President Scott?
Present.
9 present.
Thank you. Report on subcommittee and minutes, please.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the October 9, 2017 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, special business, Ms. Fowler.
Special business. Accelerate Indiana Municipalities AIM 2017 Municipal Innovation Award for Smart Streets Initiative. City Clerk Karima Fowler. City Clerk Fowler, office is on the 4th floor of the County City Building. I am honored to stand here today and present the award for the Municipal Innovation Award to our mayor and council. And we have a quick video we'd like to show.
Want to put a microphone here?
Maybe we can just put the microphone near it.
Yeah, we could, but who's connected to that?
While Graham's getting that ready, I'll go ahead and speak.
Go ahead.
So last week, myself, Councilmember Joe Broden, John Gordy, and Lieutenant Kane, we all went to Evansville, Indiana, for a conference and to accept this award. This award highlights programs and projects that have been implemented and demonstrates new approaches for solving municipal challenges. There was a 7-member panel of independent judges that actually voted on this, and this is for municipalities that have over a population of 60,000.
Smart Streets is the city's initiative to rethink the role of streets in the community. So we were thinking along these lines to create a strategy for revitalizing our downtown and our commercial areas. We know that for downtowns to be more vibrant, you need residential development to take place, you need more retail development to take place, and you just need more active users of space.
Smart Streets was an opportunity for us to use streetscape as economic development. What we saw was that when we had a 4-lane, one-way highway blasting people through town, it was really serving to evacuate the downtown at the very moment when we're trying to repopulate downtown. We're trying to make sure that we have a streetscape that supports city life, that promotes chance encounters, it's good for business, kind of place you'd want to walk along the side of the street. And we knew we had to make some serious changes in order to make that happen.
The key part of this project is to make sure that all the streets carry their fair share of traffic. If we were to direct all the traffic onto one street, we'd be forced to make them wider lanes and more lanes. We wanted the lanes to be a maximum of 3 lanes per street. That's roughly a 30-foot cross-section or 35 feet, and allows you to create a shorter crossing distance.
This isn't just a traffic program, this is an economic development program. And we've logged over $90 million in investment, private investment, from people who are choosing to invest in downtown business because they've seen what we've been doing in the streetscapes. When we choose to make a public investment in the streets, then businesses feel more confident making a private investment, taking advantage of those streets, and taking advantage of the foot traffic and the vibrancy that it brings to the downtown.
I think early on, Smart Streets received a bad rap. There was some public outcry about the costs associated with implementing the program. And now that we're near completion and complete in certain areas, I think a lot of people have become on board with the program overall. It was initially perceived to be some type of improvement to just the driving and through the biking and the commuting. And really what we're seeing is an overall economic boom to this area, to South Bend and to downtown in particular.
We feel it every single day. When we're driving, when we're walking, I feel it in my business. The greater number of people out on our streets makes it a safer, more vibrant place for us.
Overall, the general aesthetic of the downtown landscape now has completely changed. It's completely walkable and bikeable, and if you look to the sidewalks, you can see that there's dedicated bike paths as well as dedicated walking areas. The greenery that has come up along with it, as well as the pavers and brickwork, is completely different than how it was before.
For a long time, I feel many people have forgotten what it felt to be a city, and that all of these different things need to be knit into this tight fabric. Transportation, placemaking, development, all have to be knit together into this fabric where then you can really try to understand what it feels to be a city. And I think we're seeing that here in South Bend.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you all. I am proud and honored to present this to our mayor, and I'm going to have him come up and our council as well. I'm sure he has people he'd like to acknowledge or thank.
Yep.
We would like Lieutenant Kane as well, who's here, just to take a moment.
And we thank you, Clerk Fowler, and everybody who, the council board, everybody represented South Bend at the AIM event. Obviously, it's exciting for us to see statewide recognition, and that Smart Streets is again an award-winning effort. I just want to offer thanks in a couple of ways. First of all, not only Jatan and the Public Works team, but just about every part of the city administration had to do something in order to make Smart Streets possible. And that was true through economic development, figuring out ways we could get the financing together, public safety weighing in on making sure that it would work. And perhaps most importantly, want also to thank the council. There were a number of votes that came before this body. There were ultimately dozens of meetings that were connected in some way to the Smart Streets initiative. And this council approved the effort, but not unquestioningly. There were a lot of changes to it. There was a request by the council to ask this administration and ask me to stop, slow down, redo some things, something I don't always love to hear because we love to accelerate, but it unquestionably made this a better project. And so it's very much with the awareness that this would not have been possible without support from the public and support from this council that I'm very pleased that the city's been given this award. So thank you.
The mayor just kind of hit on the council's role in this. This is a nice award. For those who don't know, we banter AIM around quite a bit when you're working in the government. It's Accelerate Indiana Municipalities. It was part of the old IACT, which was Indiana Association of Towns and Cities and Towns. And I remember that vote. I remember the council. I was down to the last few of us here, remember that. It was down to the last minute on this. We did hear at the time a lot from the business community. A lot of business community members came out, spoke to us, lobbied us. It is one good thing in that video that really, to me, stands out is it is an economic development tool. And I think we need to look at that and remember that. So thanks for everybody going down, and thanks, AIM, for giving us that award. Thank you all.
Motion?
No motion needed, just no resolution or anything on that.
What's that
presentation?
Cool.
We're moving on. Just a Scrivener's error report from city offices. The mayor does not have a report this time. Right now,
Before, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Could you repeat, there may be some people here from the Douglas Road situation?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
And so...
there are 3 bills continued. Thank you for reminding me, Vice President Davis. 1217, the zoning for the Douglas and 23 property has been continued to 1113. So has Bill 7817 on tax abatements. That's continued to 1113. And the Old National Fiscal Plan has been continued to 1113 as well.
That also was regarding the Douglas Road situation that dealt with the issue of annexation.
Correct.
Bringing that in. So both of those bills dealt with that situation. So those who are here for that can relax for a few more weeks.
Yeah, those were at the request of the petitioner that those be continued.
That is correct, sir.
So if anybody's here for the Douglas and 23 property issue, those are continued to 1113, as well as the tax abatement amendment. So,
I'd like
great,
to make
thank you.
Motion to suspend the rules to hear resolutions before ordinances.
Second.
Suspend the rules for the agenda change to move resolutions ahead of ordinances. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. For the citizens here, what we just did is we are going to move the resolution portion of our agenda to the top. So that will come before bills and ordinances, the committee of the whole portion. So resolutions, that is on page 5 of your agenda. It is item 9. It is moved to the top. The reason we're doing this is the bonds that come before us. We have some very high-paid lawyers that tax dollars are going towards, and we want to shorten that up. So, okay. Resolutions. Ms. Fowler, would you please give reading to 1749?
1749, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving the petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for property located at 4321 South Michigan Street.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, there's zoning.
Yes, sir.
The zoning annexation met this afternoon, and we bring this to you with a favorable report.
Thank you. Presenter.
Excuse me. Ioka Pake, Zoning and Business Services Administrator with the Building Department at 125 Lafayette, Suite 100. The special exception petition for a tattoo parlor in a community business district comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. The ABZA also approved a variance from the required 16 parking spaces to 9. One person spoke in remonstrance of the application regarding sign content for the business, which is not legally enforceable. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. The petitioners are here.
When you say it's, sorry. Any question?
Vice President, do you have a question?
Yes. When you say it's not legally enforceable, could you please elaborate on that for a second?
The person who spoke in remonstrance was asking to keep the content of the signs, so not have certain symbols in the signs, not have certain words in the signs, and that is content restricting, and we're not legally able to tell people what they can or cannot say on their signs. And that could not be made a part of the approval for the variances or the special exception.
I appreciate that understanding. Thank you.
Any other council members, any questions right now of the petitioner? No, would the presenters please come up, or the petitioners please come up. Please state your name and address, and just a brief statement of what you want to do with the property and why the zoning.
My name is Rodney Ackenberger. I'm the owner of Wicked Ways Tattoo in Lakeville, Indiana for the past 12 years.
And your address, please.
217 South Michigan Street.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking to move into 4321 South Michigan Street to have a bigger shop. I've outgrown my business. And so, yeah, I'm going through the zoning stuff now. This is all kind of new to me. I didn't have to do this to like Bill. So thank you.
Welcome to South Bend.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council to the petitioner? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would the anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1749 please come to the podium? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1749 please come to the podium. Turn it back to council. The public portion is closed.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, roll call.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
See, this crowd, they never see this portion. It usually happens around 11 o'clock at night. So you guys are getting education in democracy. Ms. Fowler, 1750, please.
1750, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for property located at 315 North Main Street.
Is there a committee
Yes,
report?
the Annexation Committee met, bring this to you with another favorable recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Presenter, name and address.
Ioka Pake, Zoning and Business Services Administrator with the Building Department at 125 Lafayette, Suite 100. The special exception petition for a group residence in the Central Business District comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. No one spoke in remonstrance of the application. If you have any questions, I can address them. The petitioners are all still here.
Any questions at this time from council? No. Would the petitioners come forward and give a brief statement?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brian McMorrow of Abbott Marsh Consultants, 750 Lincoln Way East here in South Bend. Also with me is Richard Fox, the Executive Director of Upper Room Recovery Community, Inc. The petitioner has operated a facility next door to the church, 335 North Main Street, for about 25 years. providing transitional housing for men recovering from alcohol and drug addiction. The subject property is right next door at 315 North Main Street. It's our client's desire to purchase that property and renovate it for a women's facility for housing.
Thank you. Any questions from council at this point?
Just have a comment after.
Okay, we'll hold comments when we come back to council portion. Sure. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium for 1750. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1750, please come to the podium. Seeing none, I'll turn it back to council. Vice President Davis.
I just want to thank you. We are in need of more services like this, and especially when it comes to our women issues. You've worked well with the men, and as a licensed therapist and social worker here, I want to thank you because I've had so many people who are in need of your services. So I'm going to definitely encourage, and I'm going to be voting for this because this is something our community needs. Thank you, sir.
I too also would like to state I toured the facility with Mr. Fox. I'm in full support of this. The work they've been doing in the 1st District on this is amazing. They quietly go about their business. They have some amazing residents that are hardworking people getting back on track, and it's good things, and we hope the best for you in the future.
Hey, Mr. Kelly, you had the thing.
Mr. Ray Kelly.
I'd like to concur and move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broughton.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck.
Congratulations.
Ms. Fowler, 1761, please.
1761, a resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 325 South Walnut Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46601, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 5-year personal property tax abatement for Masterbuilt Incorporated.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Gavin.
Nope, this is confirming. Nope, go ahead. Presenter.
Oh, this presenter.
Dan, you're up.
Yes, sir. Just looking for confirmation of a tax abatement for a 60-year-old legacy business in South Bend to help them do some expansion. So,
Cool.
for any questions?
Any questions? Is the petitioner here? Nope. Okay. On that, open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1761, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone who's speaking against 1761, please come to the podium. Come back to council.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Broughton.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1763, please.
1763, a resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 3333 North Kenmore Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46628, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 7-year real property tax abatement for Tripac, Inc.
Thank you. Presenter.
Again, this is a tax abatement for a new entrant into South Bend.
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan Buckenmeyer, DCI, 14th floor of this building. Tripac is a new entrant to South Bend. This will aid them in funding the relocation of their business from Michigan.
Thank you.
Presenter's there.
Petitioner here?
Yes.
Nope.
There he is, right there.
Oh, there he is. Come on up. Come up, sir.
Come on.
You know this is a repeat from 2 weeks ago, but if you just briefly state what you're doing and name and address.
Good evening, Vikram Shah. Address is 17336 M60, Vandalia, Michigan. We manufacture consumer products, pharmaceutical products, and we're looking forward to moving from Vandalia, Michigan to South Bend. which I understand is very vibrant economy and a lot of incentives, and it'll be a good movement. We're looking for good, bright future here.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, could you state how many jobs you're bringing from Vandalia to South Bend?
About 40 jobs.
I appreciate that. Thank you. 40 jobs.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. At this time, I'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against, please come to the podium.
City Council, 4022 Kennedy Drive. Just some concerns about this. There was concerns about the height of it being near the airport. There's 2 yards close by. I think the landscaping should be imposed and not given a variance. And the drainage is of concern, and the curb cut-ins are very close to solvent storage tanks. We're talking about 333 Kenmore?
Yes.
Okay. That was in the packet, so those are some concerns that I think should be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against, please come to the podium. Seeing none, turn it back to council.
It's time for rebuttal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To address those concerns.
First of all, that was on the rezoning, most of it. This is on the tax abatement.
Okay, I apologize.
So.
What do you mean? So those in the, he doesn't have to respond?
It's not relative, it's not relevant to the tax abatement.
Okay.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Varner,
Aye.
Vice President Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty,
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Preston,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Broden,
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1767.
Thank you. You finished.
No, we got one more.
Got one more.
1767, a resolution confirming the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 3333 North Kenmore Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46628, as an economic revitalization area for a purpose of a 9-year personal property tax abatement for TriPac, Inc. 5-year.
I'm sorry.
5-year personal property tax abatement.
Name and address, please.
Dan Buckenmeyer, Department of Community Investment, 14 Florida's building. This is a tax abatement also for TriPac. The last one we discussed was for the real property, the building itself. This is for personal property, which refers to actual equipment. So it supports them in making a multi-million-dollar investment in the equipment that will reside within their walls.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Nope. Petitioner, please state your name and address again, please. Just
Vikram Shah, address 17336 M60, Vandalia, Michigan. We plan to transfer all the equipment and machinery from Michigan. Besides that, we plan to install additional production lines and additional pharmaceutical plants and clean rooms. And we plan to expand more into pharmaceutical areas.
well, thank you. Council, any questions? Thank you. Thank you. We'll open up the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1767, please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak against 1767, please come to the podium. Seeing none, we'll turn it back to council.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
You guys all right?
So we did second.
Yep. Ms. Fowler.
Vice President Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty,
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Preston,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Broden,
Aye.
Councilmember Varner,
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1769, please.
1769, a resolution superseding a confirmatory resolution and modifying a confirming of an adoption of the adoption of a declaratory resolution designating certain areas within the city of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 23464 Adams Road, South Bend, Indiana, 46628, as an economic revitalization area for purposes of a real property tax abatement for GLC SBDC 2 LLC.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
Dan Buckenmeyer, still.
Jesus.
Department of Community Investment, 14th floor of this building. So the abatement is a modification to a previous abatement for this building that has not yet been built, but we want to accelerate the action so we can get a critical piece of commercial property inventory in place. The substitute bill, as an aside, is just simply to correct some scrivener's errors in the property description and corporate entity name. So,
Need a motion to accept. Motion to accept the substitute.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Any questions right now for petitioner? I mean, the presenter?
Is he going to do a whole presentation? Or
Yep. Well, this is
question
presenter.
now? Let him present? No.
Do you want the?
I have a
hang
question
on.
about, this was the one that had the 100% abatement, the question that we
Okay.
talked about last time, right? So I just wanted to, whether it's appropriate here or there, I'd like to just bring that, a nice summary of what's changing with your abatement, and just so the public knows.
in brief, it was previously, about a year ago, it was proposed as a 9-year tax abatement that would be tiered from 100% down with the benefits basically degrading, if you will, over the course of the 9 years. What we are doing is accelerating that, bridging the term to 6 years and making it 100% abatement to basically accelerate and encourage the developer to build this piece of property. We had noted in our previous presentations that there have been potential entrants to South Bend that chose other cities to locate in, that had looked at a location, or for, I should say, a location here. We don't have any existing commercial real estate inventory that fits this profile, which is the profile is essentially that just about any new manufacturer, wholesaler, warehouser is looking for in terms of ceiling height, docks, and other amenities and so on. So that is the reason Community Investment is interested in moving this project along. So,
Thank you. Any other questions?
Is it comment time, or we get comment later?
Comment later.
Okay.
Will the presenter please step forward and just give a brief, or petitioner, I'm sorry, a brief summary of the project?
Sure, thank you. Jeff Smoke, Great Lakes Capital, 112 West Jefferson. I think Dan laid out a pretty good summary of the reason for the change, and we're just looking to capitalize on the success of the first spec building we did 2 years ago.
Great. Any questions to the petitioner? Okay, we'll open up to the public. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the substitute 1769, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1769, please come to the podium. Come back to council for comment.
I'd like to comment.
Ms. Preston.
When we first heard this resolution, there was quite a bit of concern from the public looking at this issue of the 100% tax abatement. That being a new structure, something new that the city can, or that folks, the cities in Indiana can do. But because there was so much concern about it, I will be voting against it today, just as a part of a matter of the record, so that voice can be heard.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Make a quick one.
Yes, sir.
Just appreciate Community Investment's creativity in the sense that with development like this previously, we were typically expending TIF dollars, which are direct funds coming from the city. With new state law, we're able to use tax abatement a little more creatively, and we don't have to expend any TIF dollars, so there are no direct expenditures, which I think is fantastic. So thanks for the great work, Community Investment, and with that, I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Nay.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to continue 1771 to 1113.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 1772, please.
1772, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving and authorizing the issuance of bonds of the City of South Bend Redevelopment District and related matters.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting and public hearing on this bill, and we sent it to the council favorably.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Council. Aaron Perry, Executive Director of South Bend Venues, Parks and Arts, offices at 321 East Walter Street.
Thank you.
Presented previously in budget hearings what I'm about to show again, but I thought as transformative as these projects are, as important as these are to our community, I would run through the suite of projects again for everyone's benefits. I have never been in a council meeting after all these meetings where I've seen an audio-visual presentation, but you're going to get two in one meeting. So.
South Bend has always been a city thriving on vision. Vision that transformed the bend of a river into a center for trade, that pushed to be a leader in heavy industry, that sought to operate as a 21st century city, that positioned itself as a hotbed for technology and innovation. With every generation comes an opportunity to have a significant impact in crafting the future of our city. And for well over a decade now, you've dreamed, aspired, planned, and envisioned what your South Bend Parks and Trails could be. We realize our greatest assets lie all around us. Natural resources brimming with the power to bind community together. We have an opportunity for the first time in several generations to make a significant investment in our natural green spaces. Well, the time is upon us. An opportunity to fundamentally transform our entire city, to access the shared spaces provided by every citizen, for every citizen, and further them into sources of unity, pride, and economic development. Developed by our community through thousands of pieces of feedback, hundreds of hours of public meetings, and dozens of resident engagement sessions, a project has arisen that will make a significant impact, well beyond downtown, in the many spaces where we teach, play, engage, and provide for one another. Because what matters to us is not buildings, but lives and the quality to which they are lived, connected, safe, active, and full of opportunity. This is My South Bend Parks and Trails.
My South Bend Parks and Trails.
My South Bend Parks and Trails.
Mis Parques y Caminos de South Bend.
My South Bend Parks and Trails.
The suite of projects that we'll be discussing tonight is every bit of transformative as the Smart Streets project that just won statewide recognition, and I can't help but believe that we'll be back here in just a couple years' time accepting the award for our work here. Such a plan hasn't been dreamed of in South Bend since nearly 100 years ago, almost to the date, when George Kessler presented the Parks and Boulevards plan. We've dusted off that plan as well as dozens of other neighborhood plans. The City Plan 2025, which is just right around the corner. The 2014 Parks Master Plan, as well as hundreds of other community pieces of feedback and other planning documents, such as the Riverfront Parks and Trails conceptual framework that was just completed a couple months ago, a 10-month process, the City Cemetery Master Plan, the Coal Line Trail planning process. Also consulted with all kinds of industry standards and benchmarks. We're one of the only agencies in the country using geo-referenced amenity standards programs. Matter of fact, a PhD student in North Carolina just presented on South Bend's work using that, combined with the Trust for Public Lands Park Score. We're the only agency that I'm aware of that's done such a level of thought and detail that went into it. We also kind of tried to put in some benchmarks that we looked at in kind of six key indices. I know I've shared these with the council members. We looked at how we can tackle issues in social equity, how we look at public safety, ecology, neighborhood improvements, economic impact, and recreation value and public safety. Again, we don't have enough time tonight to dive into all of these, but we've been trying to educate as many people as possible on the societal benefits beyond just, health and wellness, what parks mean to a community besides playgrounds, what it means for economic impact, community safety, and otherwise. I hope this was going to show up pretty well. In the past 2 years, the council was bold enough to support an initial parks bond, the first one in almost 40 years, a couple of years ago. In the past 2 years, thanks to that work, we've been able to complete quite a few projects all over the city. Again, I won't read them to you tonight, but we're very proud of the work that's been happening. A lot of these things have been deferred maintenance projects, if we're honest. And that wasn't hidden when we first looked at it. It was kind of a neglected system. But we've, along the way, also been able to do quite a few neat things as well, such as new playgrounds at Kennedy and splash pad and basketball at Fremont and otherwise. There's currently several projects we've got in progress right now. We just announced a new dog park coming out at Rum Village. We just broke ground at Howard Park. Quite a few projects underway. You see Walker Field noted there, and some of the work down on the south side at Rum Village that continues. Again, I won't go over those things in detail, but we have made all of this information available over the past 5 months at mysdparksandtrails.com. Some of the projects, the Charles Black Center renovation and expansion that we're really proud of as well. And then we have this suite of projects that are currently planned and proposed, heavily along the riverfront as a result of MySP, or the Riverfront Parks and Trails conceptual framework, but peppered through just about every neighborhood, including neighborhoods that haven't historically been serviced by the park system. And again, I'll spell those out. Howard Park, lots of riverfront trail upgrades, Sites Park, Leaper Park, Pinhook. That's our kind of riverfront parks and trails conceptual framework. But then we go out into the neighborhoods and look at Pulaski Park on the south side, the O'Brien Center. Just about every park that has a pavilion is in need of upgrades in just about in some way, shape, or form. All of our restrooms, we have 22 restrooms throughout the park system. None of them are ADA compliant. We'll be making those all compliant and upgrading those as well. The Coal Line Trail, some work in the golf round at Erskine and Millville. City Cemetery, some additional security efforts, and we have some real storage needs, as well as, again, I mentioned those new park build-outs and acquisitions to help service areas that are underserved. Some of these things are very exciting. I would like to say that I'm excited about all of them, but some of these are just needed. You look at a place like Pulaski Park, just such an important part to that neighborhood, but it looks tired. And we got some work to do out there. You look at our restrooms I mentioned. These are things that aren't real exciting investments, but they're just needed for our community. There's real safety issues and issues out, of course, in the city cemetery that we'll be investing in. Some of the parks. I mentioned the public access, the Trust for Public Land partnership that we had. We're certainly the smallest city to undertake this type of study, but we're one of the only ones that have combined it with the GRASP, the Geo-Reference Standards program I mentioned. We took a map of the entire city overlaid with where our parks are and where the density of people live, including it's heavily weighted on people that are considered low income and then diverse populations, and even weighted further with where children live. And we were able to identify there are actually 4 key areas that we want to target for investments with additional parks, either acquisitions or build-outs or partnerships. So that's contemplated in the entire MySB Parks and Trails initiative. This is my favorite map to look at. Tonight you're going to hear about 2 different bond issues that really make this entire transformative piece of work possible. I mentioned the website. You've heard us talk, and you've heard the mayor kind of explain the funding mechanisms. Roughly is a third, a third, and a third. We've already got committed just over $12 million worth of outside funding. These are partnerships with University of Notre Dame and Bouquet and Potawatomi Indian. These are state grants like regional cities and federal grants like the Rails to Trails program and otherwise. And so we've already got that committed. We seek to leverage those funds with the 2 bonds that you'll hear tonight. One would be a redevelopment bond from the River West TIF. and one would be the Parks Bond, new Parks Bond. And I should note that that redevelopment also includes some future cash. So when you see that number a little bit higher than we're asking for the bond, because we intend to use some cash there. Another way to look at it is the total investment out there, what we've already got committed, the two pending bonds this evening, the prior park bond, what we're committing from our operational capital over the next 5 years, and then you're seeking almost nearly $50 million worth of investments in these spaces that haven't seen much investment through the past several decades. So I take the time to share that information as it applies to 1772 and 1773. I know you'll be hearing them separately, but to move into some of the pragmatics of 1772 that you have in front of you is the redevelopment bond. This would be a River West TIF bond, which was unanimously approved at the Redevelopment Commission and heard publicly twice. We do have bond council representatives from Barnes & Thornburg and UMBAH here to speak on the specifics of that bond financing mechanism.
Thank you.
We're ready at that point.
Anyone else for your presentation? Aaron, this time?
Not besides Randy.
Okay.
You want to do questions now, or?
Just a brief introduction, if you would, Randy, and we'll get into the questions.
Sure. Randy Ropola with Barnes & Thornburg with offices at 100 North Michigan. The resolution before you is the concluding action. I may say the Redevelopment Commission has previously held public hearings and adopted resolutions determining to issue redevelopment district bonds. As Aaron mentioned, the intent is that these bonds be payable from TIF from the River West. We also would anticipate having a tax backup in place to provide additional security, which will allow the bonds to be sold at an interest rate premised upon the city's rating, which is obtainable if the bonds have the tax backup in place. And the bonds, I would mention as well that we're anticipating these bonds would be issued in the spring of 2018. This money is not needed currently, but we undertook the approval process in line with the park bond, the series of park bonds, which are the next resolution, which those, if you approve, would be issued before the end of the year. But we did want to get the approval process for this in line with that. So if you approve these tonight, nothing further would happen until the spring of 2018. I'm happy to answer any questions with respect to the resolution.
Council, any questions?
I-
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ladies.
Go ahead. Yes, no, maybe.
Ms.
you.
Preston, I
Okay.
recognize you.
I think this is going to be for Aaron. I wanted to call our attention, council members received an email from a citizen this afternoon, and I just want to take the time to make the point that we have an amazingly engaged citizenship this year, largely in part to Councilwoman White's, I believe, her focus on increasing engagement. And this is just one example. With regards to this park bonds and things, there was someone that thought it was really important to share out. Although I think that you addressed some of the points that he put into this email even tonight. But I just wanted to underscore it because I think that they were very good points, and I wanted to make sure that those places that we have, or you have, the city administration has addressed, I want everybody to understand that, to underscore that, and then there might be some places where we can do a little bit better. So I'll just read a couple of things.
Ms. Preston?
Yes.
Is this a comment or a
Oh,
question?
this would be a question, because I think he needs to, well, you tell me.
I
I
don't
want
know
him
what
to
you're gonna say.
respond
Okay.
to the questions that this gentleman put forth.
And are you going to read all the questions?
No.
Okay.
Promise.
Go ahead.
It'll be quick. Okay. So, he points out that according to the most recent Equal Opportunity Commission data in 2015, 48 of the employees in South Bend, city of South Bend, earning over $43,000 a year in these two specific departments, community investment and parks. Only 4 were identified as African American or Hispanic. That may have changed, increased, or decreased. But I think he makes a really good point that having a process exclusive of African American and Hispanic leadership in selecting and developing proposals without explicit utilization of best practices in parks administration nationally has led to deeply inequitable results. One of the things that he said with regards to looking at the proposal here and like census block groups, He said, census block groups with parks receiving the lion's share of these proposed improvements have a far higher Caucasian representation than the city average. He says it's also clear that some of the parks with little or no proposed funding and some West Side neighborhoods with no nearby parks at all have significantly higher African American or Hispanic representation than the city average. He notes that this disparity is deeply disappointing and unjust. That's the first thing that I want you to address, because I think that there are some things, you've mentioned even in your proposal about what's happening now with what's here versus what we did in the past and what you have planned for the future.
Thank you. I would love to even correspond with the resident directly. That hasn't been brought to my attention previously. In terms of diversity in the department, we're proud to have a very diverse department, and like all of the city organizations, city departments, we're continuing to try and move the needle there to ensure that our employee base looks exactly like the community. So we're proud to have a diverse department. And so far as the planning process, that has been happening literally over a decade, starting with the City Plan 2020, neighborhood plans that we've been able to get our hands on, and then of course the 2014 Parks Master Plan, which won state recognition for its involvement through City Voice. It won a state award at the Indiana Parks and Recreation Association for its inclusive nature. So every single thing that showed up on the 2014 Master Plan is represented in the MySB Parks and Trails, based on statistically valid surveys and otherwise. But as you can see, even judging with the spreadsheet that we showed to the council earlier today, that's taken from the website information. We ranked on that Harvey Ball system. Equity was extremely important. Not only racial equity, geographic equity, looking at areas that have been historically underserved, or looking at populations that have been underserved. So when we talk about things like making all of our restrooms ADA compliant, or looking at our trail systems to become universally accessible, those are also important things in that realm. So I think we've got work to do, but I think this plan addresses this pretty head on.
And so, just to add to that, I think that there have been improvements. I didn't see it on this proposal, but at Kennedy Park, at Fremont Park, and more than what was listed here, right, for Charles Black.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and I should have jumped right on that as well. The largest project we've done to date that we see actually coming out of the ground is the Charles Black Center. Fremont Park was a wildly inclusive neighborhood program that we worked closely with the neighborhood to develop what's happening there. They've got the largest splash pad in the city at Fremont Park. Kennedy Park saw our first kind of adventure playground go up, and a new basketball court, and there's more to happen there yet. So when we look at different areas of town, certainly that's important to us. I think if you look at the suite of projects that are yet proposed, perhaps the spreadsheet that I gave out, and you add them up, you're going to be looking at more than half of the projects happening outside of the downtown area. So we're proud that this is a geographically diverse investment as well.
So I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to make sure that that was brought and put onto record, because I think there has been, I can see an effort, and I just want to thank you for that effort. One last thing, he also mentions he would like to see a goal that all residents of our city should be within a half-mile walk of a park. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, so that's the 10-minute walk there that we looked at with the Trust for Public Land. So that's important to us too. And I believe the mayor is actually signing on to the 10-minute walk campaign. I don't want to speak for him, but I believe that's important to the mayor as well. So,
thank you.
And I echo the appreciation back to you. Thanks for engaging in the whole process.
I'm going to do a follow-up to Aaron's question, then I know Vice President Davis has questions. Aaron, how long have you been at this position?
Almost 2 years now.
I know it's not just you. I know it's your staff and everything, but there is a refocus. And there's no disrespect to anybody that's been there in the past or in the present, but as that director, there is a focus, and you lead, kind of that agenda. And that's pretty good. Can you go back a couple slides just real quick? This is just a follow-up to Ms. Preston's question.
Just stop right there. Go forward one. Right there. I'm sorry, I'm selfish. I'm looking to see what's on the west side in this, and I have been, and I love that slide that shows there's a good. This is a start, honestly. You know, when we did the first park bond, it was truly, we got to fix what's broken, and now this is where we can move forward with making improvements for our city. And I don't know if you were counting, but I certainly was counting. Even if I take out, you know, or give half to what's along the river, to the west side for the first, second, sixth districts, over on that side, some of the fifth. That's pretty impressive, and I know it's a start. So I agree with a lot that was in there, that things need to be addressed, but I think this is a good start to address it. That was my question, was how long you been there? Vice President Davis.
Feeding off that, and then I have another question. Could you state how many of the South Bend parks are being addressed by this? And then the ones that are not being addressed between the TIF plan that we're about to vote on and then the park ones what are you doing to address those who are not being? So again, when you combine the TIF bond and you combine the park bond, two bonds, share how many of them are affecting the total amount of parks, and then how many parks are left that have not addressed, and then what's your plan to address that? So we can go back to cover and say that every single one of our parks, no matter west side, south side, east side, north side, rich, poor, whatever, are being addressed. Could you then have a follow-up question?
Thanks, Councilman Davis, for giving me an opportunity to correct my cover letter, because I actually said 32 in the cover letter, and it's 36 parks are being touched out of the 52 park properties that we have. So it's not all of them, but it's the majority of them. We do know that in the past several years, some of the parks have gotten refreshed a little bit, so those you won't see those come online. But we're aware that there's going to be other needs. As I mentioned, this was largely founded in the 5-year Parks Master Plan that took place in 2014. That was a 5-year plan. And so we'll start in 2018, start to refresh that plan for the ensuing 5 years. At that point in time, I fully am aware that we're going to see additional capital needs be required, and at that point we'll revisit those when that list is generated.
And earlier today I asked you to get that list of those, and then you'll be able to share for that. Last point, you said you looked at a lot of the different plans that have happened over the last years. In that study, did you include anything that you saw from the Miracle Park concepts that were, this council had a long debate about that a few years ago, Miracle Park kind of things. So could you highlight, just briefly, are there any of our parks that these bonds that will help children, families, adults, anybody else who has any disabilities and issues, children or adults who have disabilities? What does this bond, whether it's the park bond or whether it's the TIF bond, what does it do for families whose children, families, adults, parents, older people, whatever, have a disability in that? Because that was a part of the Miracle Park. Could you share some light on that, please?
So Miracle Park, it turned out, wasn't quite the right fit for our organization. We don't have the ongoing operational expertise to do that. But I am aware that there are groups that we'll be partnering with to make that a reality in the future. In exchange for that, though, it became really evident that what was more important to families was their neighborhood parks, the ones that they use every day. Rather than just having a specialty baseball field, that was good. Let's make sure all the restrooms are ADA compliant. Let's make sure the trail systems are ADA compliant. Let's make sure we have safe routes to parks, so sidewalks in and out of parks and things of that nature. Any new playgrounds that we've been installing lately are universally accessible as well. Potawatomi has the universally accessible surface, as well as Keller Park. We look forward to introducing more of those wherever you see playground upgrades coming in as well. Mother-child swings, wheelchair swings, some of those things you'll see come online as more recognizable even in the neighborhood parks, not just the marquee parks.
So therefore, as you move forward with the park bond and with the TIF bond, you are incorporating ideas and concepts from the Miracle Park to address and to help benefit and promote families who have disabilities, whether they leg, arm, whatever the situation is, you are including that in your plan.
Absolutely.
I appreciate doing that. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from council? Thank you. At this time, we'll open up to the public.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1772, please come to the podium.
Thank you. City Council, 4022 Kennedy Drive. I wanted to give a special thank you from Michiana Disability for working on those 88 restrooms. Thank you very much. And for the playgrounds being universal. That's really important. And so on behalf of them, I want to say thank you for that. I did want to bring up a financing question about it. And Dr. Barger pointed this out. It's a bond for $12,200,000. It'll take 15 years to pay off, about $1 million a year. So that means that what is costing us $12,200,000 will actually cost us $15 million, or $2.8 million in interest. So I'm wondering if, and I'm thinking, well, that $2.8 million could have gone to those parks that Councilman Davis was talking about that were underserved. I just wonder if there's such a hurry, a hot hurry to get things done and issue a bond. It's like, put it on my credit card, you know, there's interest. I just wonder if the council could be more creative on coming up with ways to finance things that didn't cost us so much interest, so we'd have more money in the long run.
Okay, thank you. If you would, please, there's a sign-up sheet. Please put your name and address on that. If you can move that to behind the gentleman, and we'll just catch it up. If you would sign in. I forgot to mention, everybody has 5 minutes to speak. You don't have to take all that time. And if you hear repeat, someone said what you said, we want fresh, new information, please. Thank you. State your name and address.
All right, my name is Charles Smith. I live at 2001 South Warren Street. I live near the Run Village Park. I gotta say, in the last couple of days, it became an eyesore, and I go out there quite often. I'm watching slowly as redevelopment is coming, and Run Village is coming alive. Run Village was alive back in the past, and I have kids. I have pets of my own. I got the opportunity to be behind the dog park initiative, and I'm glad they chose that location. One of the biggest things was the cost behind it. One way is how you can knock it down smaller, and I do know they're asking for some donations to kind of help out. So that's definitely one plus to that. But I definitely encourage and support changing the parks all throughout South Bend, especially because I have kids, and I want to be able to take them somewhere else besides have to take them to Mishawaka, because I just don't care for the playground around here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address, please.
Kathy Klimek, 929 West Colfax, South Bend. I'm speaking as a resident of South Bend, but also as an educator in the South Bend Community School Corporation. I'm thrilled to see the progress that has been made in the Parks Department. The program that I oversee is the intern program. We job shadow with the Parks Department. Aaron embraced it from the beginning, and we have been just overjoyed to be a part of what is going on with our Parks Department. Living on the west side, I get to see some of the changes that have gone on and the improvements, and I think with the improvements that we're going to see at our Parks Department, specifically addressing those with disabilities, it's crucial. I love the idea of the park out on the west side, but I think it's imperative that our students feel a part of, inclusive in their neighborhood. So if we can create these parks that address mobility issues, that address our cognitive issues, that address all of our students at various ability levels, I think that's going to just bring that neighborhood feel back to South Bend, back to those areas where maybe it's been lost, where maybe kids didn't feel a part of what was going on in South Bend. So between the development, the growth that's going to happen, and our partnership in our job training program, the kids now begin to feel a part of what's going on in South Bend.
Thank you. Next, name and address, please.
Good evening, Robin Vita. I'm the Director of Health Education with the St. Joseph County Health Department. Office is on the 8th and 9th floor here in the County City Building. I'm speaking in favor of this development. We know less than half of our county residents meet physical activity requirements or recommendations. We know people that live closer to parks and have park development throughout a geographical location have 3 times the likelihood that they will be more physically active, which ultimately leads to better overall well-being. This investment is a long-term investment in public health and ultimately the health of our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Laura Turnfrow, 913 Wayne Street. I am very excited about this proposal. I moved into the city limits about 16 months ago near Howard Park, and I don't have children, and I don't use a lot of the facilities, but just being able to walk down and have a place to hang out. As a high extrovert, I'm very excited about the communities that they're proposing, and of course the ribbon for ice skating. But as someone who's in health and well-being professionally, just echoing what Robin said in terms of the well-being, I also looked at the plan, the 10-minute walk plan, and noticed that the keywords for me were high-quality parks within 10 minutes, not just a park, but high quality. So I went out this weekend. I didn't know Aaron was going to highlight, but I went out this weekend to Pulaski Park, someplace I had not yet been, and was really just disappointed to see, obviously BPA is doing the best they can, but just to see, all the needs that were there. The kids are using a porta potty, which my germaphobe self was really kind of grossed out. So I'm excited that they're going to get new signage. I couldn't find it. I don't know if anyone else has tried to, but GPS took quite a while to get me there. And hoping that this really will just level the playing field so that not only are we 10-minute walking or line biking, we are getting the high quality that we deserve for not just kids, but also all of our residents, and just improving the well-being. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, name and address.
Willow Wetherall, 817 Harrison Ave, South Bend 46616. When my ex-husband and I bought our first house in, he was my husband at the time. When we bought our first house in 2006, I had just graduated from a master's program at Notre Dame and initially had no intention of actually planting roots in South Bend. And when we bought that first house, it's when I fully started to realize the beauty of being a South Bend resident. And that house cost us just under $150,000, but we would often refer to it as our $1 million home. And the reason was it was in the Sunnymead River Park area, and we could literally fall out our door and access the public municipal pool, the playgrounds at Potawatomi Park, the zoo, the greenhouses. My kids spent countless hours at Kids Kingdom. All of those fantastic amenities were literally just footsteps away. And since when my children got a little bit older, we started exploring more on our bikes along the Riverwalk, attending musical events at Sites Park, ice skating at Howard Park, and some of the most positive memories of their childhood were formed in these parks. And we've attended and hosted countless birthday parties as well, so they've been a very, very important part of our family's life. We're also a family that will travel to experience great parks. We made a family trip to New York City and spent considerable time in Central Park, and we frequently go to Chicago to experience Millennium Park. Cloud Gate and those huge fountains that are, double as a splash pad, again, stand out in our family's mind as sort of a remarkable asset. And I'm excited to see this investment in our parks because I want South Bend, not only for current generations, but for future generations, to have remarkable assets in its park system. So again, I'm supporting this project. I'm excited for what's to come and for our family to continue to enjoy the evolution and improvement that we'll see in the park system.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
John Roush, 21260 Wingberry Trail, South Bend. My wife and I bring our dog and walk the trails along the river at least a couple times a week when the weather is nice enough and everything. But I bike the trails frequently throughout the year. The new plan should make this more enjoyable for everyone and safer with the widening of the paths. Parks and Trails already help with businesses. I'm looking forward to the increase in business and enjoyment we should all see from this new plans. My family has taken advantage of the ice rink in the past at Howard Park many times over the years, and I'm happy to say that my children, their friends, and my grandchildren have all been able to enjoy the facility. Again, the new plans look great, really impressive. I have received feedback from family and friends, and they're all looking forward to the new complex at Howard Park. My family has also been able to enjoy the East Race, Kennedy Water Playground, Potawatomi Pool. My grandchildren love Kennedy Water Playground. They're 6 and 3 years old. I've been able to see many of the plans for the changes to the Parks and Trails, and I'm really looking forward to the innovative and new concepts that the plans bring.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Yes, my name is Kathy Heiderman, and I live at 51889 East Gatehouse Drive, South Bend, Indiana. I am a retired school teacher of 45 years and still subbing, but I'm here to talk about the river walk and biking trails. I live over on, kind of towards St. Pass Park. I love the new trail that they did from Angela Boulevard, that I get, not an Angela, but Darden, and ride it all the way downtown, through the East Race, past Howard Park, down to IUSB, and come back again. I love that. I walk the East Raceway since it's been opened, which was many, many, many years ago. And I work at a place that people come to me and say, where can we bike, where can we walk? And I always tell them, excuse me, about the South Bend walkways. And downtown, I says, it's beautiful to walk down there. It's nice and peaceful and a lot to see. I also suggested to them that maybe in the winter they could try doing snowshoeing on the bike paths as well, as long as you don't plow it. But even if you did, you could still do it. And maybe even cross-country skiing would be something that a lot of our people could pick up and have a place to go. But I love the bike paths. I had a knee replacement about 7 weeks ago, and I can't wait to get back on my bicycle and do it as long as the weather holds out for me. We don't get snow. So I'm in favor of what's going on with the walkways and the bike paths along the river.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, name and address.
Juan Constantino, 746 South Meade Street. I come to you as a staff member of La Casa de Amistad and as someone who grew up on the west side of South Bend. In particular, I am in favor of the South Bend Parks and Trails for a couple of reasons. One, as being a staff member of La Casa de Amistad, I understand when we take our youth kids, and we have kids from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade, we have to pick a different park to take them to. We can't take them to Pulaski, or there's not much there. We'll decide to take them to Rum Village, where the south side of town has a nice parks. And I knew growing up as a child on the west side of town that although Pulaski was nice because that's where my father played soccer growing up, it was always a trip to go to the nice park. And that was always the theme, and it becomes a reoccurring theme here, that where is the nice park at? But for us to have the opportunity to take our youth and for them to know that they have a nice park there in their neighborhood, and to hopefully be a part of that design process when we talk about inclusivity, about what staff members are on the teams who are putting together these parks. I look forward to working with Aaron, BPA, to hopefully meet with the La Casa kids and say, you know, what would you like to see? Would you like to see more soccer fields, more futsal fields? What kind of games or what kind of playground setting would you like to see to keep the kids active and to provide them that space? And for me, I think that becomes the biggest part, to include those in the neighborhood, to be a part of that, and particularly the children of not only La Casa de Amistad, but all of the youth there in the neighborhood. And for me, again, as a child, it was always tough knowing that I had to go somewhere else to go to the nice park, but I think it'll be a big step for the youth in our community to know that they have the same opportunity and the nice park in their eyes in their neighborhood.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Hi, Jeff Ray, President and CEO, South Bend Regional Chamber, 101 North Michigan Street in South Bend. Just here on behalf of the business community, our 1,000 business members employ about 60,000 people here to voice our support of this. As your economic development partner, we see firsthand how important these kind of improvements are to a community. When we studied communities across the country, and we looked at Austin and Raleigh and Denver and Nashville and Durham and Boise and those kind of communities, it was the investment they made in quality of place improvements that really helped move the needle. You've done an outstanding job in making investments in roads and infrastructure and water and sewer lines, but we know this is a really important investment, and it will be one of those things that helps drive future economic development activity. I also have the hat of Visit South Bend Mishawaka, the visitor bureau for our area, and also want to speak just to the important asset that these kind of improvements are to visitors that are coming to our community. We produce a number of publications to direct them to these great assets, and your investment will continue to make this a desirable location. So we just, on behalf of the business community, wanted to voice our support. So thank you.
Next, name and address.
Hi, I'm Regina Emberton, President of the South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership at 4477 Progress Drive in South Bend. South Bend, like so many cities across the Midwest, faces one of the biggest economic development threats, which is population stagnation. And in order to ensure future economic and wage growth that we desire, South Bend must retain and attract an adequate level of new talent. Part of the solution lies in the quality of life that we can foster for communities across the South Bend Elkhart region. So while the state of Indiana has a great reputation as an attractive destination for business, through the Regional Cities Initiative, they're working with regions to improve the quality of life and to make us a destination for talent. The Blue Waves Initiative was a marquee project of our regional cities' application to the state. And because our region's plan was so compelling, the IEDC awarded one of three $42 million grants for the South Bend Elkhart region to invest in quality of place projects. The Regional Development Authority, in turn, invested over $5 million of that $42 million toward the City of South Bend's Blue Waves project to be a co-investment with the local public sector and the private investments. The state and the RDA believe that this is the kind of project that will enhance and enrich our community's arts, culture, recreation, innovation, and connectivity. We know that it will help attract talent and be a catalyst for private investment in the city. We can see this already with the redevelopment that's happening in the former Transpo lot and at the former Armory building in the East Bank Village. Even beyond the Regional Cities Initiative, though, the partnership and other stakeholders from across the region are working together on a set of strategic investments that will change the face of our region for decades to come. Talent attraction and retention is so critical that it's been named as one of 5 key pillars in our economic development strategy, with the ultimate goal to transform net out migration, which is now nearly double the state's average of 2 people per every 1,000 per year leaving, to a positive in-migration by 2025. And one of the key strategies in retaining and attracting good talent is to enhance the desirability of the region through increased community spaces, diverse housing choices, and connectivity among our communities. And the Blue Waves Project is an example of how we can do this. At this moment, many employers in our region are struggling to find the talent that they need to fill open jobs and to advance their companies. By supporting projects like the Blue Waves Initiative, we can take a step forward in retaining and attracting the kind of talent that will make this a world-class community and economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Hello everyone, I'm Adam Touring, 236 South Notre Dame Avenue. Here first to speak as a member of the public. When my wife and I first moved here, we were living with my in-laws, which only accelerated our process for trying to find our own house. They're wonderful people, but we were still looking very hard.
Fix it up, Dale.
They're not here right now.
On the record.
They'll laugh about it
It's on TV.
We were looking very hard to find a place to live, and we heard about what was happening in Howard Park. We knew what was going to be happening in Howard Park, and that led us to purchase there. As I've said before, it was already a beautiful park, and the changes that are going to be happening are going to make it a magnificent park. It's very exciting to me. I like hearing what the Parks Department is wanting to do with spreading that out to not just be along the river corridor, which is very important, but to be all throughout all of the communities. It's very important to me. I also speak as the Deputy Director of the Historical Preservation Commission, and I've been very fortunate to be growing relationships with the Parks Department as they continue to maintain and build on those historical assets. So I again speak in support of this.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
My name is Beth North, and I live at 54747 Merrifield Drive in Mishawaka.
I am a citizen of our region, and I believe very strongly in the parks and trails. I have trained for 3 marathons along the river, along the paths. I have walked in many fundraising walks, including St. Margaret's House Winter Walk, the Crop Walk, the ADA Walk, the Alzheimer's Walk, and I have seen families come to these walks who have children in vehicles that the current trails don't accommodate with their current situation. So I think the upgrades for ADA, both along the trails and in the restrooms in the facilities, is going to be a huge bonus for the area. I hope to attract my other 2 children back to the area by having all of these amenities and all of the things that Regina was talking about in terms of the overall economic development in the region. And the most important thing of all is we need to improve our health. And if we're out walking, biking, and talking to each other, doing yoga on the park lawn, we will all be in better health and we'll all feel better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Jonathan Jones, 2203 Basin Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46614. I'm fully in support of this project because I feel that it really exemplifies the social equity that this city is really looking for. Because of its widespread reach, touching upon improving many of the, not just private, not private, but public shared spaces across our community. It's a project that will not only have a strong economic impact, but more importantly, as I see, a fundamental transformative impact on our city. For the last couple of years, I've had the privilege of directing a fun, crazy adventure race that takes place across our city called the Urban Adventure Games. And throughout that race, if anyone that has participated in it, it's a great way to see the city. And I really pride myself in being able to expose people to new areas of our city. But it's really easy to do that with the downtown area. I mean, many people have seen the work and the transformation that's gone into that part of our community along the river. But as we, move a bit further out, sometimes it's hard to get community members excited about what's happening because they don't see that same change happening in their backyard. They can't see that. So they might say, oh, well, I hate the smart streets, or we've heard all of those statements being made because people don't see those things happening around them in some cases. With this project, what's really exciting about it, as I see, is that it gives the opportunity to not only build upon the strengths that we're having in our downtown areas, but we're expanding well beyond that. We see that with the Charles Black Center, the things that are happening there. And as you see with this map, there's things happening all over the city, and so I think that really gives people a chance to get excited about our city, get excited about the things that are happening here in South Bend. When they not only see it happening in our downtown areas, but where they're at as well. And so for that reason, I fully support this.
Thank you. Next name and address, please.
My name is Luella Webster. I live at 701 East Howard Street, South Bend, 46617. I am totally in support of this park bond. A few years back, I was before the council begging and pleading for money to do Kelly Park. Kelly Park was just deplorable. No major work had taken place in that park. The children in the neighborhood got together and said, we need to do something for this park. They wrote a proposal to the mayor, to the park department, and when the bond came in, we begged and we pleaded. I wanted this $5 million just for Kelly Park, but I knew that was not going to happen. But if you see Kelly Park today, that's a park that has been completely renovated. The city has been very supportive. The park department, I want to just give a shout out to them because they have been wonderful to working with us to make sure that we meet the compliances that we need to meet. We have torn down an old building. We have a new pavilion. We have basketball courts. We have new playground equipment. We have new fence put up. It's a fence that's a state-of-the-art fence. If you get a chance to see this park at the corner of Howard and St. Peter, you would be saying, hey, I want my park to look just like Kelly Park. We didn't do it by ourselves. The city and the park department really supported us. But if you can just sit back and say, hey, this is what we need. We need to do something good for our parks and our trails. There's major development homes going up in my neighborhood, $1 million homes, Eddy Street Commons, and to see people now utilizing a park that was deplorable, that no kids would come and play in it. Any given day, you'll find at least 50 to 75 children in that park. So I say, I support the park bond, and please, my mama used to tell us, I come from a family of 15 children. We did not always get everything we wanted. And my mama used to say, you know why you didn't get what you want? You didn't ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. So I'm asking that you do support this bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Beth Sanford, and I'm from 1013 North St. Peter Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46617. And well, first of all, I've been working with Luella for the last 4 years. We're rebuilding Kelly Park, and we've been fundraising and developing it and getting donations, which has been helpful. I myself am a mother of 5. Our oldest is a freshman in college in Oregon, and our youngest is in 3rd grade. So I currently have 4 teenagers, so which is a lot of work. Anyways, I want to say when my kids were young in our neighborhood, actually Luella's neighbor, Mr. Martin, she grew up next to their kids. When I used to bring our kids around by Kelly Park, he told me, he also had 15 kids, he and his wife, don't go to that park, it's dangerous. And they lived directly across the street. And I thought, no, if he's telling me not to go to that park, I don't think I want to go to the park. And I think actually Luella swang on the swings as a child. They were there, and you can see all the different paint choices throughout the years on that swing set, the amount of times it's been repainted. But what I've noticed that through this process of working with the Parks Department, which have been great and supportive and giving us great advice, and their knowledge has been wonderful, and their expertise and their direction, as well as their honesty of what they can and cannot do. But a lot of it, as I've noticed, looking and pricing out equipment and surfaces for, and benches, and even looking at construction costs, it's been amazing at how expensive it costs to build a park. Just a general 5-12-year-old piece of equipment is like over $45,000. That's not including shipping and handling nor installation. So it's been a real eye-opener to myself as someone who's fundraising to buy the equipment, looking for sales, of really what the Parks Department is up against. If we started this prior to the $5 million bond, and looking at costs and looking at, then I've had a better, I'm a little more keen to look at other parks around the city that my kids have played in, that we've gone to, or underserved areas, and looking at the dire needs to improve that. And I've noticed just how much our neighborhood has improved, and as well as how much the attitude has changed from the people who've been in the neighborhood for 30 plus years, and how now they see the park as an amenity and as a safe place to send their grandchildren to, as well as seeing the diverse groups coming into our park. And it's been a great joy and a pleasure along with that. I personally grew up in the Sunnymead area, and I have very fond memories of walking to Howard Park in the winter with all my buddies and skating. And I'm extremely excited to see that that's going to be done and rebuilt, and I look forward to going with my own children. But in general, I think it's a great economic, it'll be great economic growth for the city, and also how it's going to bring more stabilization to neighborhoods, and it's going to bring a better sense of community, and it's going to give a place for neighbors to come to, whether it's celebrating a birthday or having some type of childhood programs for kids. And lastly, I would like to just leave you with this. I know there's been a question regarding the cost of the project. Let me find this. But I was recently reading that Frederick Law Olmsted designed Central Park in New York City over 100 years ago, and at the price tag of $13 million. can you believe it, $13 million. That was in 1856. He did a study from 1856 to 1873 to track the property value, how much the property value had gone up. So over a 17-year period, he found that his initial $13 million that was spent on the park in 1873, it rose to the point of $209 million increase in the value of the property impacted by the park. That was in 1873. You can imagine right now it's billions. So if you're looking at even at Howard Park or even the other smaller parks and bringing people into the city, I think that this is a great way to invest your money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Mary Bundy, 318 South Francis Street, South Bend. Good evening. I can't think of one thing to say that hasn't already been said. And I know the President's got no, but actually what I'd like to do is, Councilwoman Preston, I'd like to echo something that you brought up about the share and spreading the wealth in the parks. This year, I went to Rum Village Park. It's called Rum Village Park?
It is.
Okay.
Sixth District.
I went there for an event, and driving in, I was taken back to my childhood in Springville State Park. That is an awesome park. The canopy of trees and the trails, and I said, I'm amazed. This is right here in South Bend. We can't all have a zoo in walking distance. We can't all have the most amazing splash pad. We can't all have those amazing trails at Rum Village. But they're accessible. I can go there. And nobody's going to say, oh, do you live in this neighborhood? No, it's a city park. It's all of ours. And so all of these parks have different personalities, different amenities, and we get to go and enjoy them. So I'm in favor of this bond. I know the Parks Department is doing amazing things, and I know they will continue to, but we've always got to start someplace. And so I am very much in favor of this bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address.
Good evening, Myron Larimer, 402 East South Street in South Bend. Great cities have great parks, and great parks help build great cities. I spent most of my life in real estate, and a couple of things have really hit me the last couple of years. One is a trend that millennialists tend to choose where to live based upon the quality of life. Recreational opportunities, the parks really impact that quality of life that they're looking for, especially when you consider the healthy lifestyles that most people of the younger generation are looking for. And so that's very important. Secondly, I'll echo something that property values are improved as parks and recreation become more and more a part of building up the community. It improves property values. So from that perspective, you'll see more people, one, choosing to relocate to areas that have great recreational opportunities for their quality of life, and you will also see more people choosing to stay. And that's been one concern over the years in terms of people leaving South Bend. Quality of life, great parks and recreation help retain a lot of people that have been leaving in the past. So I would encourage you to support this proposal.
Thank you, sir. Next name and address.
Gerald Fargo Senior, resident. I come to you and BPA Park Ambassador.
Your address, sir. We need an address for the record.
727 California Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay. And one of the hardest thing I guess it is for people to adapt to a change and transformation. But coming into the parks, I watch them go from good to going to great. Sharing a lot of time speaking with individual people that come there and they have concerns of how it used to be. And you watch those same people, young kids who's arguing, fussing, and you tell them it's a better way to do that. Let's just talk things out. And then they begin to learn individuals, grown-ups. Then they begin to get respect. The outside, the parent, they begin to get respect for you. That is coming into a lot of parks. I see some go from one park to another. And in the park program, daily we capture about 14 to 15 different parks. So I'm at different parks and see different diverse of people. And all they want is somebody to say, it's going to be okay. And the greatest part is the park is enhancing that. Everything won't come overnight, but you got people identifying that right now. And they said, when I engage with them, do you think it's going to be better? I said, do you think it's going to be better? And as you look around, some of them come back and say, it's getting better. They have gotten better. And I know within time, if you keep supporting this program, it'll go from good to great to become awesome. Because some people now can see the vision. And when you can see the vision, you can see growth and prosperity. So I would just encourage you to keep this going. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address.
I'm Vicki McIntyre, 1233 East Erskine Manor Hill. And as the other gentleman said, great cities need great parks, need great fountains. I am co-chairman of the Studebaker Electric Fountain. We hope to bring it back to this city, fully restored and flowing beautifully, this time in Leaper Park. Leaper Park right now is not utilized as much as it could be, but with this fabulous fountain, which will be 25 feet tall and 42 feet in diameter, I really think that will bring in families and weddings and celebrations and art and yoga in the park. It'll be a beautiful place to even read a book and to meet for a reunion or anything. Soiree en blanc should be there. I think even children will delight that the dolphins will be squirting water and the turtles will squirt at each other. So I want you to know that we have raised over 80% of our goal. This is going to happen. We have hired McKay Lodge Conservation Lab to do the restoration. We've located all but one of the original molds, and we found a wonderful benefactor who will pay to have the new mold made. And we've hired Robinson Iron will do all the recasting. They're in Alabama. And Georgia Fountain and Light will light our fountain in 3 different ways. So one way will be like back in the old fountain, it had light bulbs that hung around, and it will be like light bulbs again, but this time powered by fiber optic. And then you flip a switch and it'll be the white lights that you're used to, and you flip another switch and it'll turn color for red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. So we need your help. Please approve this bond so that everybody can enjoy these beautiful parks that we have. And we will have our proud 1906 Studebaker Electric Fountain back as our city's landmark and our postcard.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
George Friend, 221 East Colfax, South Bend. So I've been a lifelong South Bend resident, and about 5.5 years ago, my wife and I took the risk of relocating to downtown South Bend, and it's been a great decision. We've really had the opportunity to watch the excitement and vitality that's taking place downtown. We love being downtown. We walk along the river and all over all the time. And seeing what's coming along the river for us, for other people moving downtown, I think is going to be terrific. So I fully support what you're doing.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
I'm Barb Sutton, 528 Osterville in South Bend. I'm also the president of the North Shore Triangle Neighborhood Association. First of all, I want to applaud the Parks Department and the whole project team for all the inclusion that they have made. They gave us lots of opportunities to come and bring our concerns to them. They modified their plans. They were very open about inviting everyone, and really appreciate that. I grew up on the west side of South Bend, far west side, and I was a park rat. I spent my summers in the parks on the west side of South Bend. And I'm so thrilled at the idea that we can pay forward to our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren with this parks plan. I think this is a plan that can last another 50, 75 years and really bring our city even farther back to life with the economic development that I think will draw to the city and to our area. And I just want to say, on behalf of my neighborhood, we say yay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Hello, Sarah Bugdad, 319 East LaSalle Ave. I am the program lead for a program called Bowman Creek Educational Ecosystem. So every summer there is an influx of 30 interns that come into the southeast neighborhood to try to revitalize the community with the community through different engineering initiatives and various other projects to bring the community together. I wanted to just tell you about an event that happened last year in 2016, right before the internship started. There were shots fired in our park, and so there was a lot of fear and not a lot of trust in the city and just the community in general. We were planning to have a picnic at the end of that week. We actually still ended up having that picnic and bringing our community together, and which Mayor Pete actually attended. But we were able to really listen to the concerns of the neighbors. And that following Monday, the Parks Department came out and helped us to revitalize that park. We repaved the basketball court. We cleared the brush that leads into Bowman Creek, which is one of the most polluted tributaries of the St. Joseph River. We repaved the sidewalk. And so not only does that show that the Parks Department really cares about this community, but it also is doing it with this community. And so it's really bringing people together and bringing trust back to our neighborhoods. I think if we have a well-maintained park system and a really dedicated Parks Department, people will take more initiative to maintain their properties. I think they'll see the value in coming together as a community and really having this place attachment. And so I think it'll do a lot of different good for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Mark Neal, 1329 East Washington Street. I have the great pleasure to serve right now as the president of the Parks Board. It has been nothing but exciting to see this process. There are really two great public institutions left that are open to all: libraries and parks. Libraries are something that other public entities handle. For us, it's parks. I think the Mayor, Pete, presents with vision to make a generational investment in our community. And I think this council looked at in caring for our parks, investing in our parks, and loving our parks. And I think in supporting this effort through such a fantastic collaborative effort led by Aaron Perry and the EPA team, and the energy and talent that they've demonstrated, and the great input of so many members of our community who have their voice has been heard. Many voices have been heard. I think some voices have been heard maybe for the first time, as we've seen what's been incorporated again by your input, and I think what's been done by the EPA. And I think approving this bond and the one that's to follow will demonstrate that as a city we can continue to work together to build a great city where we can live, work, play, and engage. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against this bill or this resolution? 1772, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford. Well, in general, I am a park girl. I love the parks. I think the plan is great. I think we need to start paying off some of the bonds we already have in existence. We're leveraging not only our children's future, but our grandchildren's future on speculation. And I think we need to slow down and take it step by step. We don't need to do $50 million in work in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. We're still how many years out before we pay off these wonderful streets that were $41 million? You know, we're still paying off the Cove. We're still paying off the Hall of Shame. We're going to be paying off debt forever. So slow down, take a deep breath, think about where the future's going to be before you jump off the cliff again for another speculative project.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking against 1772? Seeing none, at this time, there is a rebuttal to the last point. Those against, Mr. Aaron Perry.
Thank you, Council, and thank you to those that spoke in favor. I think you have seen broad support And there's a reason we call this MY, SB Parks and Trails. Unlike the Parks and Boulevard plan that I mentioned earlier, that was developed by one landscape architect, this was developed by copious amounts of community feedback. I think you've seen the strong community support, and we're proud of that. The work doesn't stop here, obviously. We'll need that continued community support as these plans become a reality. But I think we have a strong plan that's very fiscally responsible, and we're able to do without raising taxes, and able to leverage, as I mentioned earlier, over 12 million private dollars that we've already got secured. I think hopefully that answers your questions today.
Thank you.
Your support.
With that, we'll turn it back to council.
I'd like to make a motion to comment. Want to make a comment?
Yep. Mr. Davis.
Yes. On behalf of those who couldn't speak here tonight, Vice President Koufax.
You're Vice President.
I would like to say thank you because of the fact that our first city park was a city cemetery. And Councilman Vorty was the city clerk at the time, and several of us. I know. Several of us a few years ago, we had meetings about the cemetery, and the city cemetery is for everybody in the whole city. It's one of the only cemeteries that was integrated in 1892 all the way through. And I was very pleased when this project put, this whole effort put the city cemetery into it, because to celebrate all of our parks now without honoring and taking care of our first city park, to me, would not do justice to our city. So it's great that we can honor all of our people who are out there, the Irelands, the Calverts, Studebakers, and many others who have made the history of South Bend come alive. I also am very grateful. Ms. Bundy talked about going to Rum Village. I'm highly grateful. We had some disagreements early on about the dog park, but it's all turned out nice. And our dog park will be at Rum Village, Old Safetyville. And I'm very glad to see that, because it adds to Rum Village. And I'm thankful for how all this is coming together. So I'm just glad to see it. The only thing I would like to add is that we need to make sure that our parks are connected with our transpo. So therefore, our children, our families can use our transpo, and our maps, as we map out transpo, our rides and our bus shelters can be near our parks. So people can just go, our kids can summertime get on the bus and go to their favorite neighborhood parks and go back and forth. So you look on Transpo, you see the parks, you look on parks, you see Transpo rides. So I think they need to be really coordinated. Well, you and I talked about that several months ago. So again, I'm just glad that the city cemetery has been included in this, and the dogs have been included in this, and all over. So we not only have taken care of ADA, but we've taken care of our animals, and we've taken care of our dead. Thank you.
Any other comments from council?
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
On behalf of Vice President Koufax, aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1773, please.
1773, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana. Ooh, what just happened on my computer? No, it popped off my screen. Just a minute. 1773, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving and authorizing the issuance of bonds of the City of South Bend Park District and related matters.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting and rescinded this particular bill with a favorable recommendation.
Before you start, I just want to say I was remiss. We should have heard 1772 and 1773 together.
Yeah.
They're technically
That's what she said.
pretty much the same thing, and I apologize, Ms. White, I did not catch it.
No problem.
So I just want those out there in the audience to know that these are technically
The same.
thing. So I feel your spirit for and against for 1773. Presenter.
Thank you, President Scott. I won't go through the presentation again, but I think you understand the suite of plans. This is the final third. When I speak about the third, you got the private dollars. You just approved the redevelopment funds, the bond with the River West TIF, and this final third would be the Parks bond, the new Parks bond, which was unanimously approved at the recent Parks Board meeting. I won't speak for anybody, but I also won't necessarily have to encourage people to come back. I think you've heard the spirit. That this is widely supported. I'll just use this opportunity before I turn it over to Bond Council to thank you for your support and to thank my colleagues as well that have helped make this plan a possibility and the ones that are going to help implement it. In particular, you see on the cover letter is co-signed by Dr. Mueller. James really helped lead the way on making this financing plan come to life, and Jen Hockenhole in the finance office that helped put it together, and then of course our team in legal and public works, Stephanie, Eric, and Jiten, who will help make all of this work possible. So, this mechanism is the new Parks bond. I will turn it over to Randy Rumpola to discuss any specifics.
Thank you. Name and address, sir.
Yes, Randy Rumpola with Barnes & Thornburg with office at 100 North Michigan. This resolution does approve of the issuance of a series of bonds by the Parks District, the city acting on behalf of the Parks District to issue the bonds listed in the series of the Exhibit A of the resolution you have. As Aaron mentioned, the Parks Board did adopt a bond resolution and a confirming resolution and held public hearings approving of the issuance of the bonds. These bonds would be issued prior to the end of the year for two reasons. One, to allow projects to proceed, but also that these bonds are payable from, would be payable from a tax levy, and the intent is to position these bonds so that the tax levy that is rolling off for the Hall of Fame facility will be the same levy that's used to pay these to pay on these bonds. So there would be no increase as a result of this bond issue. It would just simply replace the existing levy in place for the Hall of Fame, which is going on. So if approved, these bonds would be issued prior to year end for that purpose, and then also to help pay for costs that would be incurred with respect to the projects. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Yes, two quick questions. One you addressed, but I want you to just highlight it again. Ms. Benicki had talked about the Hall of Fame bond that we need to pay off prior to doing this. Could you address that? Because in a sense, this is paying off. I mean, could you talk about that, or how that is going to be paid off?
Sure.
And then the second thing is, could you explain to the audience why we're doing two bonds instead of just doing the redevelopment bond?
Sure. With respect to the Hall of Fame bonds are being paid off, and so the Hall of Fame levy would otherwise go away. And so the intent was to structure this financing so that it would just fit within the existing Hall of Fame levy. So there would be no additional tax increase as a result of this bond issue.
And that part of the Hall of Fame would be gone.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
With respect to the two issues, partly because of the redevelopment at the River West, so there were certain projects that, as mentioned at the committee meeting, that support the River West. We could make a legal conclusion that the projects support the River West development area, so partly funded from the TIF revenues that are available from the Redevelopment Commission, and then partly done as a park bond, a series of park bonds to be able to fit within the existing Hall of Fame levy. So the intent was to maximize the benefit of both financing techniques and receive the best, say, bang for the buck in terms of being able to use the existing Hall of Fame levy and then also use the TIF that's available from the River West development area.
I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1773, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1773, please come to the podium. Seeing none, turn it back to council.
Motion for adoption.
Second. Ms. Fowler.
1773, Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broughton.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to rise to the committee of the whole.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I didn't realize, I didn't take into.
The committee of the whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee.
Give him time,
Come on. Give him 3 minutes, Give him 3 minutes.
I'll either talk or I'll...
Hey, y'all. Good night.
Would you please hold down the conversation? Okay.
Good night.
Okay, if you would, if you desire to have any additional conversation, would you please take it out in the hallway? The committee of the whole is now in session. This is the portion of the meeting where the full council meets as a committee. During each ordinance, members of the public will have an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition of the ordinance being read. With that, City Clerk, would you please read 1217?
1217.
I'm sorry, could I entertain a motion?
To continue till November 13th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 5417?
5417. Public hearing on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 3333 North Kenmore Street, Councilman District Number 1 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Zone Annexation Committee met this afternoon, and we bring this to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Planning Commission with offices located on 11th floor of this building. The petition in front of you this evening is related to the previous resolutions we heard earlier tonight. Good opportunity to see what you guys do after we normally leave here. The petitioner is seeking to rezone the property from LI Light Industrial to GI General Industrial, shown here the approximate 9 acres at the southwest corner of Nims and Kenmore. The existing site plan has, there's about just over a 50,000 square foot building there existing with some planned additions that will add on to the building as it goes to the west of another additional 55 to almost 60,000 square foot of additional industrial development. There were some variances, as we heard earlier during the tax abatement. What was sought was to get variances from the landscaping. The existing site is heavily landscaped, as you can see from this image here. The variances were to allow the petitioner to retain the mature landscaping, and the way it was approved is any future development will have to meet the landscape ordinance as it develops. So this just allows them to maintain the existing mature landscaping without making changes to that. Those variances were granted subject to the rezoning being approved. This comes to you from the Area Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation. Rezoning the property to GI General Industrial will allow for the redevelopment of an industrial site in a manner consistent with the surrounding area and the comprehensive plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a presenter? I'm sorry, petitioner.
Mike Dan from Dan Charner and Associates, 1643 Commerce Drive here in South Bend, representing the petitioner in the contingent fire. As Angela mentioned, what we're doing is changing the zoning on this piece of property, approximately 9 acres from the LI district to the GI district, for the tri-pack industry so that they'd be able to move into this particular facility. As Angela had mentioned, the existing building is about 45,000 square feet. The proposed expansion is about another 56,000 square feet. To answer a couple of questions from the lady that had spoke at the for your resolution, we will be doing additional landscaping, as we had mentioned in council in the committee meeting around the solvent tanks up at the northwest corner of the site. There'll be additional landscaping there. There'll be additional landscaping around all the parking areas. That was basically an agreement we had worked out with the Area Planning Commission staff. There is heavy wooded areas along the very west and along the south sides. As far as drainage goes, Any new improvements that are done on this particular site have to go through the city engineering department for approval of drainage plans. So they have to meet all the latest standards for the city of South Bend for drainage, so there is no drainage problems created by this industrial development against any adjacent property. What we would ask for is for your favorable approval to move the zoning up to the GI district. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions for presenter or petitioner? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move to send to full council favorably.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 5517?
5517, public hearing on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 212 East South Street, Councilmanic District Number 2 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Yes. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met and we bring this to you with a favorable report.
Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Angela Smith.
Substitute.
I apologize. Can I entertain a motion to accept the substitute?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That was
Anyone
probably
opposed?
favorable. Okay, thank you.
Probably did that in committee. Good evening, Angela Smith, the Area Planning Commission office is located on the 11th floor of this building. The petitioner is seeking to rezone the property here on South Street, just a little bit east of St. Joseph, from the SF2 single family and two family district to the OB office buffer district. The property is an existing residential structure that the petitioner wishes to convert to law offices with some residential potentially in the building as well. It's an existing building that's existed since the early 1900s on a small 55 by 55 foot lot. There are no additions or changes proposed to the property at this time. I'm not sure that there's any room for any additions or changes other than the interior of the building. This comes to you from the Area Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation. Rezoning the property to OB office buffer will allow for the reuse of this structure in a manner consistent with the comprehensive plan and supporting the neighborhood. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a petitioner?
Yes.
Please state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Robert Bodorf. I am, my address is 5505 Bull Creek Road in Charlestown, Indiana. And I am here, basically, Angela, I think, did a good job of explaining what the plan is. What our intent is with this building is to turn it into a law office. I have a law office in Clark County, Indiana, which is about 5 hours south of here. And I intend to open a part of the law office here and then rent space to attorneys there as well. And I come before the council seeking an approval of an ordinance changing the zoning to allow for that use.
Thank you. Any questions from council for presenter or petitioner? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, public portion is closed. Back to the council.
I make a motion to send the substitute version to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 6917?
6917, public hearing on an ordinance to vacate the following described properties. Street vacation, minus Eddy Street from Corby Street, 180 feet south, Corby Street from Eddy Street, west 90 feet, minus Corby Street from Eddy Street east. 230 feet, the first east-west alley between Howard Street on the west and the first north-south alley east of South Bend Avenue, South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Public Works and Property Vacation Committee heard this earlier this afternoon and gave it a favorable recommendation to full council.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Mike Dan from Dan Charner Associates, 1643 Commerce Drive, here in South Bend, representing the petitioner Five Corners LLC. As we had shown council at the committee meeting, this vacation is for streets and alleys, portions of them. There were three separate items that we were doing. The first set was for Corby and Eddy, that was west of Real Line, South Bend Avenue, and Eddy Street. We were asking to do Five Corners LLC on several parcels in that area. This is part of their process for combining the properties together. along with the vacation of these public right-of-ways. The second portion was a portion of Corby Street that was east of South Bend Avenue and right where Corby kind of realigns into Howard Street. There is a strip of the public right-of-way, again, that Five Corners LLC owns properties on both sides of. They were asking council to approve for the vacation. That would not affect any adjacent property as we've shown on the aerial photos. There were a couple houses to the east of that portion. They would still have access to Corby Boulevard and also the alleys to the south of their house. The third one was just a portion of a alley that was on the north side of Corby and east of South Bend Avenue. And again, it was just a 12-foot wide alley. There were properties on both sides that were owned by Five Corners LLC. There's actually one piece that was still owned by the state, which we were trying to acquire from the state through a deposition process. And if you have any questions for me, I'm glad.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Richard Pecos, 1144 East Corby. The extent to which they are abandoning Corby to the east, I feel is adversely affecting the access by city vehicles for plowing and trash pickup to the remaining residences that are on that section of Corby that's left. I think it just goes too far that they're coming down toward the east for this abatement they want. So, thank you.
Emily Spalding, 1140 Corby Boulevard. Ever since the redevelopment of Five Corners, we have struggled with the city for snow removal. We've struggled with the city for trash pickup, lawn waste pickup, and a couple years ago, I can remember meeting a very compassionate woman who strived to make the near northeast side a single-family home. So with this evacuation of the street, I'm concerned of the future development of my next door property. Is that going to be a single-family home?
Good question.
Richard Spalding, 1140 Corby, South Bend, Indiana. Yeah, the other concern is we are the immediate house to the east of where this property is going to take place. And again, the pickups and the city services, we've been neglected. They didn't pick our trash up today. It's trash day. That happens all the time. Well, I won't say all the time. Happens frequently. But it also loses parking. Now when people come to visit, we have family gatherings, we have to use that piece of street for parking cars, because the new piece of Corby that goes to the end of the street, you can't park cars on that street. So this is used as a parking area too, since it's still a public street. So if we lose that, we lose parking as well. It's a big concern of ours. So, we feel like we're going to try to get shelved out a little bit, and we don't really like that, because you saw the maps of how the little entryway comes in, so it's been tough. So, thank you.
Seeing no one else, the public portion is closed. Is there a rebuttal from the petitioner?
As we had shown council at the committee meeting, we are not going to affect that driveway opening where the cars come in and park at those houses to the east. This is everything going to the west of that portion. So that driveway that comes in for trash pickup, that would still remain there. It would be a parking area in front of those houses that come right off of Corby. That driveway that I'm assuming probably the state put in there, that will remain as well. We're only asking for anything that is to the west of that.
And yes, so the rebuttal is closed. We'll open up for council comment and questions.
Question. Is there any way that between now and the 13th that you could work along with the neighbors to work out some agreements and come back and have a conversation with them? Because it seems like they don't have a clear understanding of what you're doing. You don't have a clear understanding of maybe what they're sharing. So is there any way y'all could work that out and come back and
We
deal
can
with
do
that?
that. Council would like us to do that.
I would appreciate it myself.
And
Because I like to see neighbors work things out, whether it's zoning, whether it's get everybody, since everybody has some talk, and we have some time, let's just see if we can do that.
And along those lines, I'll turn over to Tim, but engage with Public Works just to make sure that there is proper access for trash trucks
Well,
and things like
just
that.
so the council understands too, we did go through Public Works.
I understand.
Okay.
But
But I'll
since-
be glad to,
but since-
talk to them.
Since they're here, you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, I just want to follow up what Gavin was saying too. You know, I really don't want to rush this either. I'm not sure, my question was, is Public Works aware of the issues that these neighbors are having? Was this brought up before or just now when, you know, either in committee or at, you know, the zoning hearing or anything like that?
If you'd like, I will also double check with the city engineer, just so that I can come back to you and let you know that I've talked to engineering.
Yeah, that would be great.
And we do want to follow up Public Works to make sure their services are, you know, the one thing about this is we want to be very careful of that, but it cannot be a detriment as well. I know there's, people sometimes don't come out on the right end of these things, but we don't, you know, they're going to still be there, and we don't want them to lose services that they're losing already, so, all right.
And with that, could I entertain a motion to continue?
Continue to
Make
November
them-
13th.
13th, is it?
13, November 13th.
Second, Dr. Brown, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for being so kind to do that. I appreciate it.
City Clerk, would you please read could I entertain a motion to continue 7817?
So moved.
Second.
November 13th.
Yes, that's great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 7517?
7517, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana for the year of 2017.
Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting public hearing on Bill 75-17. They will send this bill to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Good evening, Council. John Hockenhall, City Controller Office is on the 12th floor of this building. As we stated earlier in committee today, we present these to you quarterly, and these transfers, which are just within the same funds, just between categories, typically occur when items previously budgeted at capital don't meet the $10,000 capital threshold and should have been supplies or vice versa. That's typically when these happen. So the bill before you is transferring such funds to cover many of the capital versus supply transfers, as well as transfers for unanticipated items, such as there was a Studebaker rooftop air conditioner unit that was damaged by hail, so we didn't know that was going to happen, so we have to do it. We are just transferring money, though, from our insurance fund to cover that cost. As well as the State Board of Accounts audit fees went up drastically due to changes in the fee structure at the State Board of Accounts. That's something that we didn't account for last year. And that supplies a cost for animal care and control that hadn't been appropriately budgeted in prior years. They're catching up and transferring funds that way. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move 7517 to the full council favorably.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 7617?
7617, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city service operations in 2017 of $40,000 from the General Fund 101, $117,571 from Park Fund 201, $25,000 from the Community Investment Operating Fund 211, $80,000 from State Seized Drug Money Fund 216, $2,733 from the Unsafe Building Fund 219, $97,000 from local funds, Local Roads Fund, and Street Fund 251, $25,000 from the Police Grants Fund 292, $90,000 from the Federal Drug Enforcement Fund 299, $362 from the Zoo Endowment Fund 403, $40,000 from the Parks Capital Fund 405, $11,755 from Project Relief Fund 655, and $396,500 from the Smart Streets Debt Service Fund 756.
Yes, Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee and public hearing meeting on this bill. We send it to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, John Hockenhull, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. As we spoke earlier this afternoon, all additional appropriation requests are adequately covered by cash funds already in the actual funds. So we vet those prior to them coming to you, so there are adequate funds to cover these. A few items within the additional appropriation requests for the civil city funds include additional costs for utilities at various parks facilities. Part of the reason for this is in 2017, as many of you know, we went to a full costing model for all departments, so that included charging all of our departments for water, so we understand how much it costs. So we're trying to catch up on that for splash pads and things like that. Our relief program, we are budgeting for an increase to pay the relief workers of $11 an hour to returning workers, and also cover a bonus should they finish the program for all 7 weeks. In this economy, when there's very low unemployment, they have a hard time keeping folks in that position. Also, we had a repair to the Studebaker Clubhouse roof that was unanticipated, so those are the types of things that we see.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, back to the council.
Move for favorable passage.
Second.
7617.
Favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Could I enter, I'm sorry, City Clerk, would you please read 7717?
7717, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations in 2017 of $20,000 from the EMS Operating Fund 287, $7,823 from Consolidated Building Fund, Code Enforcement Fund Number 600, $100,000 from the Sewer Insurance Fund 640, $288,850 from the Sewage Works Operation and Maintenance Fund 641, $10,800 from the Sewage Depreciation Fund 642, and $200 from the 2011 Sewer Bond Fund 659.
Can I entertain a motion to accept the substitute?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Is there a committee report, please?
Yes, there is. Personnel and Finance Committee met this afternoon, and we send this bill to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Jen Hockenhull, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. Again, these are the enterprise additional appropriations, and these also have adequate cash reserves in all of their funds that we're requesting the appropriations from. Some of the items that you'll see before you include additional turnout gear for our high school classes and our new recruits in the fire department, mainline sewer collapse repair, replacing a trailer that is beyond repair that we need to replace, and also in the sewer department, we're funding increases for second opinions and sewer things.
Thank you. Any questions from council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move for favorable recommendation for substitute bill 7717.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. For purposes of the public, the following bills, 4 bills, are continued in the council portion only, so public hearing on those bills was held 2 weeks ago, so there will be no public comment, only council comment. With that, would the city clerk...
You need to do 6517. And
You have public hearing for that.
Where...
That's the last one. Fire.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why was that listed in council portion?
Yeah, it shouldn't have been.
Just a
Shouldn't have
mistake.
been. I'm sorry.
We discussed it at a committee meeting
Oh,
today.
sorry. I had to check. So should we move to the council portion only, or should we move to 6517?
No, do 6517
Okay,
first.
wonderful. City Clerk, would you please read 6517?
Thank you. Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing the annual salary and monetary fringe benefits of sworn members of the South Bend Fire Department for calendar years 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
There's a sub, isn't a sub?
Is a fourth substitute.
Fourth substitute?
Fourth substitute.
Motion to approve the fourth substitute?
Second.
Well, at least to hear the fourth substitute. We need a second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And just to cover all our bases, could I entertain a motion to amend the agenda to place 6517 after 7717?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a committee report, please?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting, public hearing, and we sent this bill to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you so much. Is there a presenter, please? State your name and address.
Yes, sir. Stephanie Steele from the City of South Bend, Corporation Council, offices on the 12th floor of this building. As you've heard earlier, we have a 4-year agreement with the fire department union, the fire union, and this ordinance reflects the agreement for 4 years. Both sides were involved in checking over the drafting and making sure that it represents the agreements that we reached. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council?
Just clarification, please, on the section D with regard to benefits, the longevity, if you could, please. Just clarification on the addition that is in what we're considering tonight with regard to longevity.
Yes, ma'am. So that, I believe, is under section 7C. Is that what you're referring to?
Right.
That section, one of the things that the city and the union wanted to provide to fire medics was that we have a longevity pay to incentivize and reward the people who have been on the ambulance for a long length of time. This section means that if they keep the lead status, if they keep their certifications and keep all of their status, they are rewarded for their years of service with that certification. And I know that these two are eager to explain it as well. It's something that we feel really incentivizes medics and gives them a little bit of incentive to stay on the ambulance. We want to make sure that we're retaining that knowledge and experience and rewarding it so that we don't have people burning out and leaving as quickly.
I'm sorry, more from a procedural standpoint, that it was voted on by the union.
Oh.
Correct?
Yes.
And it was just omitted from our document, which explains the substitute bill, correct?
Yes, Ryan.
Ryan Tegas, Vice President, Order 362, 4025 Midway West. Yeah, it was voted on. It was part of the proposal. Everybody heard it, same proposal, and that was included. It was just an oversight that I caught later today. I mean, I was teaching down the rain all day. I saw it at 3:30, and we got it changed. So.
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Now, we are in the 3 bills that are continued in the council portion only. Just to be aware of what bill we're on, should we go reading? Okay. City Clerk, would you please read 5117?
5117. Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying the expenses of several departments of the civil city of South Bend, Indiana, for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018, and ending December 31st, 2018, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time when the same shall take effect.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, this is not the third reading. We're just rereading the second reading to remind members of the public which item we are on. And with that, we will open it up to comments from the council, I believe.
Do you need a committee? You don't need a committee?
No, not at this point.
Okay. I want to start first, if I may, in
Absolutely.
terms of comments. As the chair of the Personnel Finance Committee, it might appear for those that this may have been your first time coming as we're discussing the budget itself, that we're just rushing through it, we're giving a rubber stamp. That is far from the case. If I'm not mistaken, we've had approximately 15 public hearings in which the public have had opportunity to come on a personal basis. They've been able to email questions. Those emails have been addressed. They're placed on the website. We started this budget process early on, and that was based on a recommendation from the 2017 budget process, but the citizens have indicated that they wanted us to start earlier, and we did do that. The first public meeting was held at Ivy Tech, and then we continue throughout this process. We've learned a lot. Each time we've had a budget process, we've moved from engagement, transparency, communication, feedback, and we've learned even in terms of this particular budget process. And if you weren't with us during the committee meeting this afternoon, I made some statements in the sense that as we look at the salary ordinance, and each time, this is not the first time that we've had discussions regarding the percentage. Should it be 4, should it be 2, should it be 3? And I was thinking that as a council, we need to come together early on and have that level of conversation to give feedback early on to the administration, and we plan to do that. I do plan to pull together, after I receive feedback from the council members, in regards to the process, in regards to how you believe that we can make this process much better than what it is. The process has grown tremendously. I wish to publicly thank the committee members, the council members, the administration, the department heads, but I have to really say thank you to the 2 citizen members who have been with us throughout this process. We've spent hours, not only in terms of meetings, but also individual council members have met individually with citizen members, with department heads, with the mayor. We've met, and we have not broken any open door law in terms of having discussion. It's been a give and take. And so again, I've been very pleased. There's always room for improvement. This budget reflects a lot of the major areas that we had asked as a council in terms of looking at those quality of life issues, from streets, curbs, sidewalks, those lead and all the things that really directly impact our citizens, and those things that we heard from our citizens. So again, as we move forward, we'll be working very closely. I'm going to work on an executive summary that I'll pull together, and I would like to even pull together a booklet of all the different questions and look at the commonalities, but also to begin to look forward to 2018. I can't imagine I'm saying that, 2018, but I am. So again, just wanted to put those comments out so that it doesn't appear that, okay, we're just going through the process. We started this the early part of the spring semester, and I can't put together the amount of hours, but I'm very appreciative of the clerk's office, our attorney, council members, committee members, administration, department heads, and our citizens, and as we move forward. I just want to let you know that we are very thankful and grateful for your expertise, for your time commitment, and your commitment to the city of South Bend.
Thank you.
Those are my comments.
Thank you. With that, does anyone else? Yeah.
Just to clarify what council portion only means.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I-
For those of you who were not here at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, there was a public hearing on these 3 ordinances that are being discussed now. And the council portion only was continued until today. So the discussion tonight will be limited to the council members only, and there will be no additional public hearing on these 3 ordinances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from council on this bill?
Yes. This is just about the one bill.
Yeah, this is just 51
I'd
seconds.
just like to make a quick comment, very quick. I'd like to commend Councilmember White for a superlative job of shepherding. And I'd I'd like to take this opportunity to nominate her as chair.
Remember, I'm retired.
Not from here, from my youth, not from the council.
Still you're in your.
No, let's move forward.
That's right. Okay, Vice President Davis. Councilman Boyd, I had already talked to her about that too, so I agree with you. That she's done a good job, a great job. A couple of things that I would like to bring to everybody's attention right now. We had a discussion, we've had several discussions regarding the South Shore issue. There was some discussion regarding that matter in the budget presentation. And so in our last meeting, we asked our attorney to do some research so we can have clarity about that as it relates to everything else. I'd like to ask our attorney, Bob Palmer, to just give us a summary of what he has found. I'll make some closing comments after that. I know we have people here in the orange, so they can listen to where we are.
Okay. Councilman Davis asked some questions at one of our last meetings about the TIF procedure, tax incremental fund procedure, and whether council needs to approve funds coming into a TIF district, such as the $25 million that has been publicized about the South Shore relocation. Very briefly and simply stating, a TIF district is a part of the city that's carved out and falls under the jurisdiction of the South Bend Redevelopment Commission. The funds in the TIF district are additional tax funds that are created by the increased amount of the property tax on the properties in the TIF district. The base amount is still allocated to the city as a whole, but the taxes on the increased amount go to the TIF district. Those funds are beyond the control of the Common Council. The Common Council cannot tell the Redevelopment Commission how to spend those funds. That has to go through the Redevelopment Commission itself. The Common Council has an indirect method to control because of the 5 voting members of the TIF, the Redevelopment Commission Board. 2 of them are appointed by the Common Council, and 3 of them are appointed by the mayor's office. So there's a little bit of control there. However, more control is given to the Common Council when funds are kept in a TIF district because of bonds or loans or other methods. And those bonds especially have to be approved by the Common Council, as you saw earlier tonight on the park bonds. The Redevelopment Commission had approved those in several resolutions, and it came back to the Common Council for final approval. That's what would happen with any bond issuance having to do with the South Shore relocation. As I understand what is happening now with that, the South Shore relocation, the portion that the city would be responsible for is relocation of the terminal itself, not the relocation of the tracks. That's the approximate $25 million that's being discussed. We also heard Mayor Pete tell us at one of the recent meetings about the city being committed to $1.5 or $1.55 million. That is part of that $25 million. That is not a separate disbursement from the city to the TIF fund. So where we are now is no bonds have been issued. The only expenditure that's been made or approved for the South Shore relocation is a $125,000 contract to an outside engineering firm to complete the feasibility study that came about as a result of the resolution passed by the Common Council a couple meetings ago and approved by Mayor Pete. So If there is a bond issuance for any amount for the TIF district to spend on the South Shore relocation, the bond issue will again have to go through their procedure and then come back to the Common Council for approval by the Common Council before any funds are allocated.
No, so therefore, I'm glad that, first of all, I'd like to thank Attorney Palmer for putting that all together. You all have a copy of all of that. Yeah, Ms. Alkina's gone, but she's put it in the Dropbox, and then she also is going to put this on the line so people can read it from that standpoint, because there was a lot of cloudiness regarding what the issue was. So we were able to look at that, and like our attorney has said, no bonds have been issued at this time, and if and when that shall happen, the amount of what should be probably determined after that study that's taking place. Then after the redevelopment and all those make their determination of what it's going to take to do all of that, that will be presented back to us here. And just like you saw again, how people stood up for the bond, for, against, or whatever, that comes back here. And then we have our say, so yay or nay, or any adjustments or whatever. And then it goes into the redevelopment. After it heads over to the redevelopment, mayor has 3 representatives, we have 2. That's the decision of the redevelopment. Prior to that, it's the decision of the South Bend City Council, Common Council. Are we clear? Yes, sir. So this budget of 2018 that is going to be here tonight, up or down or whatever, does not affect that issue. This would be something that would be something separate, and we would definitely keep you posted because it has to be publicly done. So everybody will know in this room, you all, administration, redevelopment, the whole city would know how to handle whether to move forward, whether to not move forward, whether it be a substation or the whole thing. All of that will be done at a later time. Anybody else have any other comments? Are we all clear here in the board of the city? Where are we? We're the Common Council, Common Council. I've done so many things. Anybody clear down that way? Are we all clear this way? I want to thank you again for allowing this question. And so I think we all have clarity. Thank you again to the administration, for Mayor Pete for slowing down the tracks. And so we all good. Thank you for coming. Go Orange.
Any other comments from council on 5117? Seeing none, is there a recommendation?
I'd like to make a recommendation to send 5117 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 5217? Thank you, sorry.
You get ready?
5217, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying the expenses of designated enterprises of the City of South Bend, Indiana, for the fiscal year beginning in January 1st, 2018, ending December 31st of 2018, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time when the same shall take effect.
Thank you. Any any comments from council regarding 5217? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
No, send the full council.
Send the full council favorably, Bill 5217.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 6217?
6217, public hearing on an ordinance fixing maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees for the City of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year of 2018.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the substitute?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Since this is a substitute, would the administration bringing the substitute like to just clarify the amended changes for this bill, if you'd like?
So
So, thank you, and again, thank you for all the work that has brought us to this point. The main difference between this and the previous version submitted to the council is that this omits the creation of a position of public safety director. And the intent of the administration is to defer that until sometime next year when we can give that full review. Are there any other technical adjustments that I'm missing for the second substitute? Yes, there's a position in the mayor's office, again, no financial change in pay, anything like that, but we've been having some conversations about the title. This restores the previous title of project manager for a part-time position in the mayor's office, which again is not an increase or decrease, but just a title adjustment.
Thank you. Back to the council, are there any comments?
Yes.
Yes, Vice President Davis?
I would really like for us to consider a salary range, whether it's the one that was suggested, which is $50,000 to $65,000. Those for those 19 positions that are being considered, if they were at a $50,000 to $65,000 range at 8%, $65,000 to $85,000 up to 4%. If they're 85,000 and over, they would get a flat $500 to $1,000 percent. I would like for us to consider that, and in fact, I put it for a motion for us to consider that option instead of the issue of having double-digit salary ranges. So that's what I would like to put as a motion at this time.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Nay.
You got a roll call?
Yep, roll call. Regina Preston?
Aye.
Aye or nay?
Discussion, you said?
I'm sorry, what?
You just said nay before. Aye or nay?
I said
No,
You said aye.
it's actually, she said, so the motion is to
The
adopt.
motion is to
Okay.
adopt.
Go ahead. No, I thought somebody said the discussion.
Did
Count.
I do that?
Do it again.
No, you did it correct.
Okay.
You did.
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly? Kelly?
And it's for,
Amendment.
so I apologize.
Not his motion, we're voting on this.
Right.
No, for
That's
clarification, we're voting on the motion.
It's a
So
roll call.
We're going through a
Okay,
roll
that's what I
call, but
thought.
we just voted, yes.
Because you,
No, no.
Nay.
I said it.
nay.
Nay.
Councilmember Broden?
Nay.
Councilmember Varner?
Nay.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Nay.
Councilmember Furlick?
Nay.
Councilmember White?
Nay.
President Scott?
Nay.
7-2.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Yes, Dr. Varner?
Perhaps not necessarily that format, but I do agree with Councilman Davis that this is the kind of discussion we really need to have long before we get into this point next year, and I hope we can arrange that sort of thing. I think we've made some very generous salary improvements to a lot of people, but I think we've been stuck in the rut of not making some changes we need in other lower paid positions. I just think, for as long as I can remember, it's been 2% without any changes. So I hope we can have that discussion next year. I want to thank Mr. Davis for that.
Yeah, I thank you for that because I just believe that the 2%, keeping the 2% and 2%, I mean, forget about the council salary on this. This is just for the general body. And these larger ones of the 15, 70, and 80, they get the 8s and 10s and the 15s and the 20s and the 30s. I have a hard time going back to my community to justify that. And so that's my concern that I have. Outside of that, I like the part of the budget. And that's why I voted for every single other thing that I could possibly vote for tonight that I could. This is the only piece of it that is added to that budget that makes me not be able to vote for that part of it. But at least I tried.
Councilmember Blake?
Yes, I just want the council members to recall in terms of, as we move forward, setting those parameters, that we need to do that early on. And I invite any council member who would like to work with me on that we would start that process, looking at, even from a salary perspective, that's just one particular area, but there's other areas too. So that when we start the budget process, what we have focused on have been the goals or the objectives that we as a council, but now each time that we've had a budget hearing during the last 2 or 3 years, the salary issue presents some challenges for some of us and for all of us, rightly so. Just because individuals did not support the motion, does that mean that it's not a concern?
I understand.
So as we move forward, I would invite, any council member to sit down with me and just have a conversation. Of course, we will involve the administration as well, but we need to have that conversation. So we're not at this point on October the 23rd dealing with this portion. I think it's important to have that conversation.
Councilwoman White, one last thing. I'd also add to that discussion positions that look very similar. I think that I'm okay with us having more people in the mayor's office or in different offices and everything else. But I believe the justification of those positions has to come at the beginning of the budget process, not the Saturday morning or the Monday morning prior to this. Give us the time at the beginning so it can go along with the presentation. When the person makes the presentation, I'm coming from the Public Works. These are my new positions, up front. These are new positions. These are the ones I want us to talk about. And we have a list of all the new positions up front. These are the salaries. We're going to look for them. We based it off Fort Wayne. We based it off Indiana. We based it off Jasper. We based it off Vincennes. Whatever. We based it off our city, our size, or a little bigger or a little higher. Put that up front so everybody can discuss that. And then if we can do that up front, we can have a couple months, the paper can run it, we can have the public comment, we can have all of that, so there's no surprises at the end. And we all could have worked it all through. If there were some concerns, we may have been able to have meetings back and forth. But really having things come at us and get justification in our last week, we really have no time after we got that to really have a dialogue. The public hearing was already closed. So there's really no time for us to have that dialogue on jobs, because I'm sure they have positive rationales with all of that. But to really have that good debate on a Saturday morning, Sunday, or getting the answers is not enough for us to really have that. So that's my only concern. I really like all the other parts of the budget, but I vote against that only to send that message to the fact that we have to clear that up. And that helps us with the morale of those all throughout. Those are the 2%ers, 20%ers, those are old positions and new positions, because while we want to bring in new jobs, we must still have create a higher morale for all those who have been here and given their time to the city government for their service. So I appreciate that, your time.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to send substitute 6217 to the full council favorably.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
The motion carries 7-2.
Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to rise and resolve.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right.
Get out of there.
Oh, those are yours, I'm sorry.
Motion for Gavin to not take the president's thing.
Okay.
Here's your cup.
Full council is now back in session. Ms. Fowler, would you please give third reading to 5117?
5117, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying the expenses of several departments of the civil city of South Bend, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2018, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time when the same shall take effect.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broughton.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Nay.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 5217, please.
5217, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the designated enterprise fund of the City of South Bend, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2018, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time when the same shall take effect.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 5417, please.
5417, third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 3333 North Kenmore Street, Councilmanic District Number 1 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, roll call.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
5517, please.
5517, third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 212 East South Street, Councilmanic District Number 2 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Motion for passage.
Point of order, was this a sub?
I'm sorry. Motion for passage as a substitute.
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 6217.
6217, third reading on an ordinance fixing maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of the city of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2018.
Motion for passage as a substitute.
No sub.
No sub. Sorry. Motion for passage. Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Nay.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Is this a sub? I think it is.
I thought it was a sub myself.
Can we check that, please?
got it listed.
It is a sub.
Hold on.
Comment, Council?
This is a sub.
Yes.
It is, I'm sorry.
62 is a sub.
Entertain a motion to accept the sub as was in the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion
Thank
for
you.
passage.
Want to start that whole vote again, please?
That's just substitute.
He is.
Motion for passage as a substitute.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, start the roll call again, please.
Councilmember Vorty.
Still aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Nay.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Nay.
President Scott.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. 6517, please.
6517, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing the annual salary and monetary fringe benefits of sworn members of the South Bend Fire Department for calendar years 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Move motion for the passage of the fourth substitute version of this bill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, roll
We do
call.
a roll call.
Motion, no, we need to accept the sub at third reading.
So moved.
Now,
Move for the passage of that sub-bill.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 6917.
6917, third reading.
You continued that.
No, I'm sorry.
Yep, true.
Have it on my notes. Yes,
Second.
sure. 7517.
7517, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana for the year 2017.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 7617.
7617, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city service operations in 2017 of $40,000 from the General Fund 101, $117,000, $571 from Parks Fund 201, $25,000 from Community Investment Operating Fund 211, $80,000 from the State Seized Drug Money Fund 216, $2,733 from the Unsafe Building Fund number 219, $97,000 from the Local Roads and Street Fund 251, $25,000 from the Police Grants Fund 292, $90,000 from the Federal Drug Enforcement Fund 299, $362 from the Zoo Endowment Fund 403, $40,000 from the Parks Capital Fund 405, $11,755 from the Project Relief Fund 655, and $396,500 from the Smart Streets Debt Service Fund 756.
Motion for passage?
Second. Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Bordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 7717.
7717, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations in 2017 of $20,000 from the EMS Operating Fund 287, $7,823 from Consolidated Building Fund, Code Enforcement Fund number 600, $100,000 from the Sewer Insurance Fund 640, $288,850 from the Sewage Works Operation and Maintenance Fund 641, $10,800 from the Sewage Depreciation Fund 642, and $200 from the 2011 Sewer Bond Fund 659.
Motion to accept this, motion to accept the substitute?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion
Thank
for
you.
passage of the substitute?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Bordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Let's go to first readings. 7917.
7917, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending sections 2-84.9C and 2-84.9E of Chapter 2, Article 6 of the South Bend Municipal Code pertaining to tax abatements.
Entertain a motion to send to community investment for 1113.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Unfinished business, please. 1770.
1770, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 3419 West Washington Street.
Entertain a motion to send to BZA for 11-1 and ZNA for 11-13.
Second.
Give us the,
Or so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Anything else under unfinished business?
time, so wasn't that 7917?
Okay, under unfinished business, we are going to pass around the budget. And you need to sign. And
There's three. There should be
there's three of them. And state your voting record. And this has to go downstate, so we need to get that done before you leave. Anything else under unfinished business? I do want to say, Graham, I want to thank you so much for all electronic wizardry you've done over the few months. You've made it a lot better at council, getting up graphics and everything else. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thanks, Graham.
And Vice President Colfax, thank you too.
Vice President Davis. Vice President Davis.
Boy, I tell you.
Did you have anything? All right, moving on to new business. Any new business? Seeing none, we move to privilege of the floor. Anybody want to come and speak to council? You cannot. Insinuate, infer, or get anywhere close to any agenda item that was covered tonight.
Absolutely
Talk about
not,
everything.
Mr. Scott.
Name and address.
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. Now that the budget's behind you.
Oh, say budget.
Tight line, Ms. Bernicki.
9/11 Center. Within the last 6 weeks, I've had the chance to call 9/11 3 times. 2 times from my cell phone, once from a landline. The last time was last night when I was the victim of an armed robbery. It was not a pleasant experience having to deal with 911. The police officers responded were wonderful, but even they admitted that 911 is not going to work. They are using a grid-based software. So when I called in, even though I gave a very specific address of where I was and a corner, they still, because of the dispatcher, was sending police to Mishawaka rather than to South Bend. The other time when I called in, it was for shots fired in front of my house. I told them Ford Street. I spelled it to them. They still were thinking 4th Street, Mishawaka. The dispatchers are doing the best they can, but they don't know the areas. So when you're telling them a street, they don't know whether you're South Bend, Mishawaka, or county. And they also did tell me last night that before the officers will be sent out to a call, the dispatcher must know your name, your telephone number, the cause of the problem, your address, suspect information. They need all the details before they hit the button to send police to respond. And the one officer said he was around the corner. Had he gotten the call, armed robbery, he could have possibly caught the suspect. They also have to wait for 2 officers at least to show up for a response like that. By the time that all happened, 5 minutes had passed. No wonder crime is rampant, because these people committing these crimes know the delay is out there and they've got time to waste. Make 911 center a top priority, because it's just going downhill fast. Thank you.
Thank you. We will follow up on that. Hello, ma'am. If you want to move that microphone closer, Graham, if you can help. Jeez.
Hi, my name is Corinne Bennett, and I live at the Robinson's Apartments, 211 South Michigan. I'm a resident there. I have a petition that I had made up, and I had wrote a letter, which I got one for each one of y'all to read, that I had sent to the mayor. I've been trying to work on this problem, and people in the building ask me, where are you getting through this? Well, we was talking about by the parking lot, I think the parking lot is next to the Robinson Park. They want to raise, they thinking about raising it up from 50 to 90 out here. It could be a rumor, but I know they're going to raise it. So as a resident, and I looked at all the other senior residents around here, we know this is a disabled senior building that I live in. It's a shame that we got to pay for parking where we live. Do anybody in this room pay for parking where they live? Well, we all signed a petition in the building here, which I also got the petition of everybody's name right here, that everybody signed, if you want that. Okay, you know.
If you want, we can get you a copy back.
Okay. I came back here from Fort Wayne. I lived here in South Bend. I'm from Chicago, came here from South Bend in 91 and lived here all the way through 2008 in Fort Wayne. Came back. Only apartment I saw that was available was the Robinson Apartments. But she told me the apartment was $50. I went ahead and agreed to the 50. But there's a rumor talking about 90. So I said, well, why can't y'all do what every other city do? She said, what's that? I said, everybody else who live in a residence downtown or by a college or something, they have residence stickers. We ain't got nothing to do with that. At first she was with me about doing this in the building. Then the manager of the building and the coordinator came knocking on my door Friday. We can't have nothing to do with this. We don't want to get in trouble. So I don't know who should I talk to. Is it Heritage who owns Robinson? A lot of people telling me, I done went to different business downtown, they also signed. He said, we don't think y'all should be paying the parking, y'all should get a resident sticker. So I'm hoping y'all see our way, trying to help us out, cause I'm on a budget. I get disability, I can't afford, I can't afford the expenses, like that with the garage every month.
You have 20 seconds.
Okay, but that's my point that I had to make, that I hope somebody can help us out at this matter.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. Sue Castle, 4022 Kennedy Drive. I just want to reiterate how thankful we are. It wasn't just me, it was other people, Bill and Sharon, and people who wanted to remain anonymous, who forwarded questions to me that I forwarded on. It wasn't all me.
Ms. Kessler, talking about the budget.
I was saying thank you. Can I say thank you?
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We're aware of that, yes.
Well, in future, for something future, I would be interested in working with Councilman White on worksheets or whatever that would help assist making the process easier. That's a future item, right?
Any process.
Still about those two.
Some general
Well,
process.
thank you so much. Just wanted to reiterate that we appreciate it. Thanks.
All of the appropriation and tax rates.
Thank you.
Excuse me, all these appropriation and tax rates?
This right here.
Anyone else?
This is.
Seeing none.
This is appropriation tax.
Motion for adjournment. Thank you. Good night.
I have transportation here.
One's for transport and then two are the budget, two are the overall budget, and one's for
What's the
transport.
overall budget?
It was confused. It should be
See, that's what we were just talking about. What's the overall budget rate? Tell me.
Oliver, this one here is.
Hey, I was closer.
Thank you, Bob.
This is
Huh?
transport.
Oh, it was Randy.
What I do now?
Oliver.
Closer. It's at 9:30.
Was I close?
No, you were close. I said 10. What was your call?
Mr. Davis.
Mine was
I'm
just
starting in November.
Okay.
Okay?
That's, okay.
Okay, I'm happy to help you.
When you showed up.
Ideas about I haven't done one.
Okay, can I have all three?
So I'm gonna email Councilman tomorrow. I'm not gonna give you a day to take your breath.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good redevelopment? No, this the man. This the man.
I was always told to.
I know.
So thank you.
This
So
man,
which one is this?
this man was working it.
This is the tax
I
rate.
enjoyed working with you.
Somebody signed me already.
Yeah.
Is he done? They put the X by here.
Yeah. My good buddy taught me how to read the IC code. Yeah, but it's interesting.
I don't know that it's not your.
You know, when you really sit there and I tell you, my daughter's she's doing social work and then she's gonna go to law school.
Which one?
I told her, I said, yeah, she's a social. I told her it's a good combination to do because so many things I have to do with my families, but especially blended families, have to deal with custody issues, this and this, and if they understand what's in the Indiana code, then they don't get mad at you.
I think I did.
You know.
Did I? Oh my gosh.
And my goal, I just been busy. Hopefully by
Right. It's like you have to vote for. You don't vote for everybody. Then I guess you want the whole bunch of people. If everybody had voted against that one party, none of it would have been. Which is not that's right.
Exactly. The FSSA, is that also being channeled through Indiana Housing Development Corporation? Okay.
You lifting that voice to all of those issues, because I think you're